why am I even
Oh,
bothering then? Right? It's like,
exactly. It's
why
like,
even do any of these things? It's almost
right.
like, I don't want to know you, but I want you to know me. You know, it's like, I want you to know me through the work
Yeah,
that I create. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just gonna do whatever makes money, or like go
yeah.
against my feelings of what I think is art.
Are you sure you're a moral enough person to withstand all the temptations? To touch all
Yeah.
the fishes? You do want to touch all the fishes. Everybody wants to. Like, I don't trust anything anymore. I don't trust
No.
myself. I
No.
don't trust you. Nobody.
No.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the
Oh,
show.
welcome. We're back.
Back to finish the deep dives from the last session that we started, which was on the nature of creativity.
Are you sure we can finish?
That's going to be the interesting part of how much we can cover today, maybe the next 5 minutes or so of that video, because it has a lot of dense material that is very thought-provoking. And it also made me think about a lot about all kinds of topics related to creativity and creative genius and creative success and what that looks like. So I think we can keep diving into this topic for a while. And I'm interested in doing that because I think we'll stumble upon all kinds of interesting golden nuggets if we do that. So before we continue with exploring the video and the topics in there, I wanted to show you a few things that I was using my creativity for to make based on the show, just to see if it's interesting or if you find that funny, because I thought a couple of these were pretty fun. These were some fake movie posters that I made based on our show and what we talked about. So these could be movies that, would exist in the parallel universe. This one,
Jesus Christ. What?
it's The Intrusion. Some memories you can't forget, and some sounds haunt you forever. Can you guess what this movie is about?
Oh, right. Yes.
Rated TM for traumatic memories.
Yeah.
Contains intense urban encounters.
Imagine that. You're right. Imagine shooting that for real, right?
Yeah,
Like a real movie.
yeah. Oh, that's a good. There could be a good plot line,
It's a good plot right there.
yeah, unfolded. You could turn it into, we get to, we get to confront the guy or chase him or something or stalk him, and then could be a whole comedy made for this. But this is a horror, so this is a horror flick. It's The Intrusion. Yeah, so this is a fun one. $120,000, one fruit, zero explanation. Banana, a heist film. Art, allegedly.
Yeah. Apparently, you hire another Asian for the role. I'm too expensive for this. You know?
I had to do a double.
Yeah, you can't afford me, okay? You can't afford. You gotta find another Asian for this. He's cheaper.
I mean, there's also something does not quite right about my face. It's like the nose is too pointy or something. And the eyes, there's something not right with the eyes, but I found it funny, like the looks, the kind of the juxtaposition, and yeah, the fact that it's the whatever that banana art cost, the fact that it could be a heist for something like that. I think the idea was hilarious.
Oh yeah, that could be a thing, right? Because if you actually steal that, I mean that piece of work is costs a lot of money. I mean, it's the value is very
But
high.
that's the joke, is that
Yeah.
not really. Once you steal it, it's just a banana duct taped to a wall. It's not like you can resell it anywhere. It's done. It's ephemeral, right? It's not a real thing. So
Until you make an NFT. For
yeah,
that.
somehow you figure out to keep that value in it somehow through an NFT. So that's Banana, a heist film. Then we got I feel oppressed with a general lack of knowledge. That one just just no, there should have been a better name for it, but it's almost because it works like more like as a tagline. The most terrifying thing is how little everybody knows. A deep fake Spork production.
Yeah, but that's so esoteric though. I mean, most people are not even gonna realize that they don't know anything. That you're gonna be like, oh, I know everything.
That's why
You
it's such
know?
a good idea for a movie, because it's about a guy who gradually realizes that
He
the,
doesn't know
the
anything.
general public lacks so much knowledge that like he starts feeling the oppression, the weight of oppression, and she's just the worldview collapses. You essentially go through this forced awakening to just like, holy shit, nobody knows anything.
It's like the more you basically the more intelligent you are, and the more you become aware, and the more that set awareness is just pointing to the fact that yeah, most of the world are not as self-reflective. You know, you get
Or
that
just
sense like
generally not as aware about everything that's going on, because that's just probably generally impossible. Because ideally, yeah, we all would be much better informed.
because the thing about intelligence is not just like yes, everybody has a given level of intelligence, but again, even that is very controversial, right? Like like we all have all sorts of different intelligence, right? Some people are good at certain type of, there are different kinds. It's not just like, oh, you have this IQ and that's it. There's more to it than that, right? So in other ways, we're all smart in some ways, but the thing is, to make the correlation, that definitely takes a lot of effort and energy to do, and a lot of people are not doing that. So in a way, they're kind of are not using their intelligence to the full extent, which is a problem, you
it's
know?
also just the fact that to figure out anything in sufficient depth, it just requires a ton of time,
Yeah,
which you just don't have that much time for everything that you have to do in life. Just from general maintenance alone, it's a lot of life is just spent on that. For you to study and learn something, it's going to take you years of concentrated effort, and
yeah.
even that, it relies on your general intelligence. Okay, let's not run away too far with these. I just want to get quickly through them, and I'll switch to the rest of the creative arts topic. This one was another based on our can't afford to lie on your own lawn. In a world where freedom is an illusion, two men dare to recline.
Recline.
The philosophical thriller nobody asked for.
Oh, you definitely need that guy's voice, that trailer guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I'm trying to do.
yeah.
Rated PG-14 for existential themes and moderate lawn usage. So that one is fun. All the neighbors and the SWAT team and police is like watching, like, wait, they're lying on their own loan. Get them. That's not allowed. That's a fun one. The meditation problem. He needs to meditate daily or reality falls apart. But can he find the time? Yeah, that was based on one of our episodes and conversation topics. I remember that. Kind of talking about the fact that, yeah, everything needs time and meditation needs time, but then what are you going to meditate the whole day? So the world behind like is all exploding, but you still find the time to meditate.
Which is kind of the ideal state you want to be in, right?
Yeah. No, it's not going to pay anybody if you lose your cool. Gotta stay cool under pressure, for sure. This one is a billboard. Nobody can make the numbers go up anymore. When the
Well, that's
economy fails, only two podcasters can explain why nobody
who
cares.
cares?
Rated E for economic collapse. Contains intense systemic failure.
My God.
Oh, from the creators of You Can't Afford to Lie on Your Own Lawn.
Oh,
It's true.
there you go, man. That's the whole
Come into a failed career near you.
the next blockbuster.
Yeah, they're gonna make this one any year now. Be your own pal. The best friendship is the one you have with yourself. What is this? Is like an animated film, I guess. That was more on a spiritual outside, entertain yourself. You hang out with you 24/7 anyway. Yeah, I remember it was one of the points we touched upon, and I like the visual idea of the fact that it's like you are high-fiving yourself in a
Yeah.
mirror. That's a kind of fun idea to visualize.
Something.
So, dude, I showed this one to my mom and she laughed. She did find it funny. I just showed it to her. I just waited a couple seconds and she's like, what? And then
What?
she
This is a
laughed.
movie?
Yeah, yeah. It's like somebody fucked up the movie. Every problem has a cause. That cause is human incompetence.
Which is true, right? Think about it. Every single problem that happens in society, more or less, because if it's not a natural disaster outside of human making, it's basically some human fucked up. It's
Yep.
just that,
Yep.
It's sometimes it's unfortunate, but that's just kind of how it works. It's just like, how else would you explain it? If
It's
something goes
totally true.
wrong, it's just somebody fucked up, and it also, it's not even just somebody, it's a whole bunch of people fucked up, right? It's like
But yeah,
one thing roll into another.
what's it called? The Swiss cheese theory or something. When there's so many individual mini failures, that the whole thing led to a disaster, and that's how you kind of in organization or project, or any kind of endeavor, you don't really want to tolerate any errors. You do want
Yeah.
to actively and proactively try to prevent them, to fix them with any means necessary, because as soon as things get too lax, nobody cares. People just
Yeah.
it's fine, it's fine. And when you do that enough times, something blows up at the
But
end.
but you see the thing, right? With any system, there is definitely gonna be, this is the problem with bureaucracy, right? You have such a complicated system where everybody is just like, well, I'm just gonna send that email and let somebody else take care of it. That's the mentality. But the thing is, if everybody is doing that,
Yeah, then
that
the
problem
problems
get
just
pushed on it,
accumulated,
and it's,
pushed away. Yeah, and then essentially the problems themselves, they build up the risk, because risk is essentially a problem that might happen. Or there's also such a thing as a positive risk, which means like an opportunity that can present itself that you can exploit. But generally, if you're saying something like, okay, there's a risk that, I don't know, my investment may fail, you need to do something to manage that risk. If you just don't do it, the chances are it will materialize. It will become a problem. So a realized risk is a problem, really. So you want to avoid problems, but doing that requires just really proactive concentration. Like, okay, how do we not have these problems, and how do we shape reality to go exactly the way we want it to?
because it,
So,
it takes all the energy and effort to do that. It's maintenance.
but
You have
that's
to
what it
maintain
looks
it.
like. There's no other
Yeah.
way. Anytime anything good happens in the world is because somebody really wanted it and they made sure it happens that way. It is really connected with the human willpower and intention and desire. But
But
this is like, I mean, even like this as a movie trope, as a pretty good trope.
so,
Because, but imagine like this is the guys who are, this is their specialty. They have an
yeah.
agency in figuring out
Yeah.
who fucked up, like who is the actual
That's
one
that's a
that
tall
is the
that's a
root
tall
cause.
order though.
This is why it's a specialty agency. They
But but
specialize in this stuff. They
but
know
just
exactly.
recall, the whole movie Burn After Reading. That's the whole movie. Just don't know. You
It's
can't find
at the
out
end of
who.
it, you can't even understand what went wrong and why
Yeah, what
exactly. It's
did we
just a
do?
just a
You know?
confluence of factors and human nature and human problems and human desires. It's hilarious. Like that movie exactly pinpoints the kind of absurdity of just some of the stuff that's happening in the human world. So sometimes it's inadvertent, right? You didn't even plan to, but you fucked
Yeah.
up. Um,
And imagine if you're the director of the CIA, right? Somebody who's supposed to know what's going on, right? But then you face with this, like, okay, what? That happened? Why? Like you start asking why, but then the thing, you don't have enough data to assess the
Yeah,
situation.
and you can't find like a rule that would prevent it because you're not even sure exactly why it happened and what
Yeah.
started it,
It,
because it
it-
was so unique and so random that it just has nothing
yeah.
to do with
Yeah. It's
anything.
like the Russians?
The Russian.
The Russians? It's like, and the Russians are confused too. Like they got the
Yeah,
disc. It's
it's
like,
like
okay, why is this? Why?
yeah, what do you
What do you want? What's the
what is
deal
this
here?
about?
This is nothing. This is what was this supposed to? This is some top secret shit.
Yeah,
No, this is nothing. Like, why are you sending this to us?
yeah. But I mean, I think this could be a really great idea for like a whole series of
Yeah,
just this funky it's not just detectives, right? They have to that's their slogan. Somebody fucked up and we'll find them. you know?
but the problem you see, if this is a realistic movie, is basically at the end of the day, you can't find out who fucked up because there are people gonna protect the people who fucked up, right? They're gonna
No,
be,
but that's their specialty. They know all about this. They know about exactly about all this process, and everybody's trying to cover their ass and lie and shift responsibility. And it's all they're specialized in that. That's why they're investigating the SIM card. They know that they're straight.
but what will happen, right? They're gonna end up dead.
Yeah, most probably, most likely. That's another thing they like with any such jobs, and watching all these spy series like Slow Horses just makes me realize like, nah, it's way too dangerous and way too risky. Even if you're a super competent, super smart, super fit type of a guy, there are just too many players out there who have their own interests and who have way too much power and ambition to just annihilate you whenever they want. Because if you're not a big player with a lot of power, this is not the world I would want to enter,
Yeah, and also,
because you're just one guy.
and then you have to be so cautious with your own life as well in terms of
Yeah,
what you do,
exactly.
because any moment that you have some kind of scandal, right? Let's say if you do something that you're not supposed to do, and somebody captures that, have evidence of that, then they're gonna blackmail you,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Because that's what will happen. So, meaning that anybody who in that position, either you very clean or you are having a lot of dirt on everybody else, then
Yeah,
nobody gonna do anything to you because they don't want that thing. So it's like you have a gun. It's like the Inglourious Bastard, right? That situation down in the bar. Like they have
yeah.
pistols,
Mexican
up
standoff.
to your balls. Everybody, so, okay, you don't want to do anything. Okay, if you're gonna do that, I'm gonna do this. So that's basically,
That's the nature of power, is that like, what can you do to me and what can I do to you? It's like, I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere I can see, it's in chess. In chess, you're supposed to attack other pieces while protecting yours. And if you can do such a thing where you attack another piece, essentially it's a forced trade, but it's still like an equal trade at least. So if you are hurting somebody, they you know exactly how they're going to retaliate. It's that type of stuff. But if you know that there's nothing that they can do, that there's a situation on the board where you can take a piece without any problems and you're not losing anything, that's an advantage. And when you're in that position, you're winning. So, but if you're just bluffing or you don't have nothing to actually do, then you're gonna lose. And in
yeah,
these type of games, the stakes are way too high. So it's gonna be a topic for another episode. The power and all the risks that come to it. Let's see this one. Deep Fried Spork presents the game. You can't escape it. You can only enjoy playing. They thought they were living. Turns out they were just rolling dice. Yeah, it's a
yeah.
play on the Matrix. Look at that. Look pretty good in those Matrix outfits. Yeah, that was based on the game episode 12. This one is Random Acts of Spiritual Vandalism. They came to steal your certainty. Yeah, and all the spiritual bullshit that we talk about. And they succeeded. No framework left unquestioned. Yeah, that's right.
God, give me an extra jaw or something.
Yeah. Dude, it cannot get your face. Like I have
Yeah,
so much problem with it.
it's too fucked up. The face is too
It
fucked up.
it can't like it can't get any of the features right. It's rare that it does. And a lot of the times, you know what it does? It makes your eyes too crossed. Like your eyes are not crossed at all, actually. But just because it detects that you're Asian, it's like
Yeah.
tries to make sure that you're clearly Asian and just makes your eyes crossed. And like, fucking don't do that. It's not what he looks like.
So AI is so racist, right? It's like,
It
oh, he
is.
Asian, he cross
It is.
eye.
I swear to you, dude.
It's like
I
we
swear.
all know they cross eye.
I have to manually Photoshop it. Like, this is how much of a problem it is. But yeah, this is like, I don't know who that guy is. That's
It's
your
like
older brother.
that's freaking funny. It's like even the AI can tell that, oh, this is cross eye, bro. This is cross. I can't see nothing out of there, so there must be cross eye.
It's so funny. Uh,
That's actually a problem
it is
now.
a problem.
Okay, just don't be Asian.
Yeah. No, the face is generally just not good with faces. Like I can't tell how to make an accurate face. It always distorts it. But this is funny. This is what you would look like if you did train for like some kind of spec ops. Put on some muscles. You'd chew a lot of gum, and maybe that's what you would look like. You know.
Take some steroid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah.
If if I'm a musclehead, yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
look
yeah,
like.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. If you're a complete like gym rat, you know.
Some I don't know, some triad dude. You know?
Yeah, definitely. They made you look gangster here.
This looks like I have a ponytail. You know, it looks like I would have a ponytail. You know.
Yeah, it could be. So yeah, that one is spiritual vandalism. Okay, that's the last one. Yeah, so those were a few fun posters that were made based on our topics that we discussed so far. Those were like the most interesting ones that I was able to see. And might have some other category of stuff to look at next time because yeah, I just had a few different ideas. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to see what the AI comes up with. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, some of these ideas are pretty cool. Obviously, the more developed they are, the better. But these were based, like, as you can see on that episode we did in person with all our list items talking about, because, yeah, they're definitely the most punchy, the most funny ones, because there is some funny scenarios and imagery you can create around those. But today, so we can continue diving deeper into the art and into this whole topic of creativity, I just wanted to do a little creative intro to that to see how it kind of connects to the whole topic of creativity. Just to remind of what we covered already so far in the last episode, we talked about some of the initial uh, introduction into that video of how creative genius essentially will cost you your life. But we discussed that creative success is portrayed as amplifying vulnerability. So things like judgment, self-doubt, and expectations to repeat a hit. We talked about how audience can demand to kind of pigeonhole artists and force them to do identity choices like the pink guy. We just started exploring the commercialization problem, which is kind of structural to the whole creative pursuit and art, and the fact that marketing and distribution of art can enable reach, but also it can become predatory if you don't have a trusted team, to support you. What else? The creative process is partly mysterious and partly trainable through showing up, attention, and flow friendly structure. Yep, we did discuss that. The fact that you can't really expect anything specific from it, but if you just show up, something will unfold. And did a deep dive into just what art is itself and what it isn't, and it's been kind of unresolved. Some of the explorations today will help us with that, and also dig further into both the nature of art, the nature of creativity, and the cost of all of this, because the whole premise of that video we're watching is that creative success destroys people. All right, let's check out where we stop in that video, and then we'll go from there. So some of the ideas that they were talking about were, yeah, the balancing of your creative genius, creative taste, and what you want to do with what audience would like and expect from you. And it is an interesting balance because while as a creative person, you'll have some kind of vision or something that will come to you and you like it. You think, oh, this is good. This is what I want to do. And I want it to do exactly this way. And if you just do it as your own personal art piece where there are no stakes, that there is just your self expression, that is, I guess, what every creative person wants. And they will just like want other people to also like it. But if it's a creative project where involves other people, involves a specific audience, and there's a lot of money at stake, then yeah, it gets much trickier than that. It kind of reminds me a little bit about how the Pirates of Caribbean started. You know, when they hired Johnny Depp, and he
Right.
started doing that character. People didn't get it when they were making the movies. Like, what the hell? What are you doing? What is this? Are you crazy? What is this character seems to be? What is he? Is he crazy? What is going on with him? They did not get it, and but that was the creative genius of Depp, that he created that character. He knew what it needed to be, and it became the franchise empire that it is. But that is also kind of a gamble, and I'm sure it was only possible to be done also because it is Johnny Depp and he can afford to do that. But if you are a smaller artist, if you're just figuring stuff out, and if you're experimenting, that's where people can't really people don't trust you as easily, right? Because much more stuff is at stake. You need to do something that is a bit more of a surefire thing that will bring in success. But in the creative world, what is that? Because the whole point of creative success is something original, something bold and experimental, which inherently brings in risk with it, right? How do you balance out that your personal vision and your taste and your creativity and experimentation with success? Like, how do you make sure that it's well received?
Well, that's the $1 million question right there,
Right.
because it is kind of very hard to distinguish that because at one hand you have the artist having their idea, and then also very the unknown, also the part of it is also the audience taste as well, because how would you know what the audience want, right?
Right.
Because a lot of times artists find themselves like, okay, I made an artwork. Somehow, the one that I feel like is subpar, but everybody love it. Like you can become famous for a thing in which you didn't think anything of it. It's like, oh, that's just a thing that I did. Like what's so special about it? There are cases like that where the artist become famous for something in which they never thought he or she would become famous for, and that can in itself become a pigeonhole, right? Like imagine if you got overnight fame for something that you didn't even think was going to be anything, and then all of a sudden you have to start catering to that, right? Because once you start getting famous for it, then everybody wants you to do the thing, and it's like, well, is that really what I want to do, or is that kind of the thing that I'm, you know?
Right. It's almost like you get this choice of pursue this because people, for some reason, there is interest in that, or you don't like it so much that you're just not interested. That's an interesting choice. I mean, I would definitely explore a thing if it just had a response and people found it's like, whoa, this is interesting, funny, whatever. I'd then be forced to look into what makes it so, because that's just the reality. It's something out of all the things, because isn't that what we all want? We do want some kind of something that people respond to and find good, essentially, right? Valuable or funny or entertaining, etc. So if something hits and a bunch of people recognize and the feedback is overwhelmingly positive about it, I definitely look into it and see how I could develop it further, do something more with it. But knowing that up front, yeah, that's a tricky part. That example with George Lucas and Jar Binks from Star Wars made me think about the fact that maybe stuff like that happens when you're not doing you're I think he did a job that someone else was supposed to do. So his job should have been maybe just fleshing out character in less detail than he did, and he should have kind of given the job to flesh out the character completely to someone else who would be able to, make sure it's more congruent with the rest of the franchise and the vibe, etc. I think it's that, because that's how that character got its own reputation. It was too silly, it was too wacky, but for some reason, George Lucas wanted to make him that way, and he didn't see that it doesn't make sense. Like it's not the same vibe. It's a completely different thing. But on the flip side, I know everybody knows who that character is. He has a life of his own. He
Yeah.
became a meme, whatever. But that's
Right.
still great. I think that's still a great outcome. People talk about it. People know who that is, and it's not what it could have been, with a differently fine-tuned character, but it's still a great piece of culture that everybody, talks about. So it's hard to even see what is a failure or what success is in that lens, right? Especially in this day and age where people use AI to mash ideas, and you can make a video with Jar Binks, and you can make a funny video with Jar Binks these days, because that's a character, that's a whole context that you can use now. So in that context, when it unfolds throughout time and used in different contexts in culture and media, I think the character gets a life of their own, and the value and success of that piece of art is not static, first of all, and I think throughout time it has that potential to grow and unfold into something else or turn into something else. So just from that standpoint alone, any creative piece or output that you can make, it doesn't have a static value. I think it has potential, and it has value of its own.
I think, everything is pretty much on a spectrum. This is what I believe, and I think that in terms of the creativity and the reception of art, it's also on the scale of a spectrum of how much. Imagine if you had to judge what is good art. It means that you had to have enough information regarding people's tastes and the general sort of emotional response to a certain.
Yeah, and maybe it also that involves who even is the audience, though, because that's
Right,
the
which is the
thing.
general masses, I just say,
Yeah.
right? So you have the scale of, because you could be an artist where you do art that is hyper specific and hyper kind of specified to a special group of people. You could be an artist like that where you're just so niche that like only a few people know you, or a subgenre or whatever, right? So like the example of noise metal, for example, only a selective people who love that kind of
Yeah,
art.
who have
So
some kind of something in common enough to band and have a community.
right,
Or, like there could be programmer humor where only the programmers can get it because the
right,
references would be,
yeah.
incomprehensible to
So
everybody else.
so you have this kind of scale of how much um how esoteric do you want your art to be, right? Just because there's so many different responses as to what people agree on what art is. You're gonna have these commercialized, generalized art, right? So if you watch,
But that's kind of determined by what you're into, what you've learned, what experiences you had.
yeah, so that's the generalized. So in those kind of art, it's much more, let's just say, perhaps aesthetically driven, in a way that it is much more. I don't know. Like I'm just thinking that it's much more mass appeal, right? By mass appeal, meaning that it can't really be something so specific or esoteric, meaning that everybody can look at a certain piece of art or experience that said art and would be able to have a, let's just say, positive response in general.
Okay, yeah. So it's
So
enough people that can connect with it,
yeah,
essentially,
so
right?
meaning that you're not talking about some intellectual idea or something so esoteric where some people will not get it, right? Imagine if you have the general population of people just like all they, let's just say they don't read books. They just kind of watch movies. So that's the pop culture is all they know. So if you're creating art for that general mass appeal, you're gonna have to appeal to that sort of like, oh, everybody gonna get this. Everybody gonna enjoy this thing for.
But that's not how
That's
I don't
part.
think that's I
I'm
don't
not
think that's how
saying
any artists work. Like if you're just in a specific commercial art
yes.
project, then yes,
I'm
you have
saying
some
that
kind of target
you
audience.
have this kind of, I don't know whether to call that a spectrum or rather this is like a
That's a
field
kind
of
of strange constraint because imagine because that's not how your mind works. Like imagine if you had to write a book for a specific group of people, but then if you're not those people, then imagine how strange that is. You need to find out what these people are, what they know, what they don't know, what you can mention and what you can't mention. It's so artificial.
yeah, but see, this is where different artists fall on this different. It's like you can draw a graph, right? Basically, you have a baseline, and then you have on different side of the graph on the x and y, where you fall. Meaning, maybe okay in the if you fall more in the middle, that means you're kind of more catered to the general like pop art or mass appeal kind of art. For example, in the field of music, you can think of this as these really famous musicians and they just sing pop songs, right? To some critics, they like that's too like it's too general. It's too like oh
Mm.
you sing about some it's not deep enough for some people who enjoy music. It's like no, well, I don't listen to that because it's just too to them it's like it's stupid, quote unquote stupid because it's talking about this
A lot
it's
of
like
it
it's
in art will be connected to originality, right? Because if you're just doing that, something that been done before, generally people find it, oh, it's an unoriginal. You're just copying someone else, and therefore it's not
right.
interesting.
But the thing you see is this is where the artist have to make that decision for him or herself because see there are famous musicians out there and they're making lots of money but but their work is like for example they're saying about oh uh singing about feeling sad because you lost your you got separated from your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Those
and
type
how
of
many
things, right?
songs have been written about
Have
that,
been
right?
written about that, and then you get famous, and you got lots of people go fill stadiums because you sing these kind of
Well, that's
things that
because
cater to the
you
emotion,
did it in a way where it was, unique enough, and because there are other aspects in song art writing and performance specifically, it's how well you sing, how much emotion you can bring into it,
right?
how
Yeah,
animated you are, etc. So there's a multidimensional aspect to it. So the form of the song itself may not even be most important. You can
yeah.
perform a song in a way which is amazing, and that's not replicable.
It's it's the example like Justin Bieber. Okay, whether okay, kudos to the guy's success, right? But he's that specific type of artist where he's in that kind of genre and he has mass following as well, even as much hate as he gets, right? But that's the sort of artist you will be. That will be the position you occupy if you're more of a famous and generalized sort of. I don't know how would you categorize an artist in that field, but it's basically mass
I
appeal.
think he is successful partly because he caters to a specific audience. First of all,
Yes,
he's very handsome. He started as uh, young dude, so naturally, a lot of his audience is a lot of young women who are just
right.
find him attractive and great singer and voice and emotionality, and it's just a confluence of those things. So it's not like he's generic. He just has a specific audience and a specific confluence of factors that make him popular for a lot
A
of the,
specific group. Yeah.
yeah,
But that's the thing,
has a lot
right?
of people in it.
Imagine no, again, of course we can't really talk in his stead, but let's just say if you were in a similar situation as him, but you are so influenced from very young age as to what is popular, what people, kind of basically his kind of trajectory I will say that is influenced a lot by the world outside. So him as an artist would feel very compelled. Be okay. Well, do I do this popular thing then, or do I? I don't know what kind of music would he really want to make if it wasn't for a fact of, I don't know, if he wasn't so famous. Let's just say, what kind of music does he really want to make? Is the music that he's making really the kind of music he wants to make? I mean, only he knows. But
It kind of goes into this whole philosophical topic that we covered before of how, yeah, all the factors in your life have been predetermined before you got to choose them. It's that. So I don't think you can even tell. Only when you get to a certain point in your conscious development where you become aware of this thing. Oh, right. I've become this artist because the world shaped me into it. What would I want to do on my own? That's
It's a tough call, But all I'm
but
saying
it
is
may
that
not even happen. So we don't
it
even
might
know
not
if he
happen.
ever got to it.
Right.
Maybe he is
Maybe this is
doing
what he's want.
exactly what
Maybe
he
that's
wants.
exactly what he wants, right? So
Yeah, that's
what
what I'm
I'm
saying.
saying is, yeah, for some people it could be exactly what they wanted, but for some it might just be like, well, I'd rather have the money and the fame, so therefore will do the type of music that people love, and I will.
I don't think you can do that.
Well, some
How are you going to do something you're not into artistically, creatively, and be successful at it? You can't do what you don't like and be passionate, enthusiastic enough for years to be successful at it. I don't think that's possible.
I wouldn't say that the artist hate what he does, but it's more like,
But it's creativity. You have to be inspired. You have to love what you do. You have to love it's your art. How can you do and be public about it something that you're not liking, enjoying, and something you don't stand for? Who does that? Do you have an example of a person who's done that?
well, you wouldn't know because they don't tell you how they feel
No,
about
but
it,
it would be
right?
completely visible. It would come out eventually too. We don't have any such stories. Such stories don't exist. You have to give me one example at least. Otherwise, it's a conjecture based on nothing.
But would
I
you
don't
say
think
that?
that's possible.
But would you say that's 100% that everybody is passionate about their art? I mean, I don't think not every person is gonna
The
be
stuff
that
that you
passionate.
put out and that you perform and that you put out, why else would you do it?
I think
It
there's,
only gets done and it gets out there because you're driven to do it. Without your drive, I
but
don't see
what
how
I'm
it would be done.
saying is, I think because there's whole different spectrum of people. So in terms of their motivations, I will say, at least to my mind, there must be somebody out there who is actually, you would call these people hacks, where they do what they do because they can get money from it. Not that they hate what they do, like not exactly, but they
Yeah.
don't love it enough that it's just like,
Okay, I'll accept that there are such people out there. I think it would be something like, maybe Justin Bieber would be a good example. I just don't know enough about the dude. But say it's something like this. So you get to global success, but then by that time, you have, first of all, a huge team of people who are managing your success. You have a creative manager, you have to this agent, that agent, and then you get stuck in a certain rigid process, which you do have to follow, and you have to do things a certain way. That's where, as a creative person, it's not what you want. But there will be people who will come to you like, oh, that will be a great song for you to do. This will be a great role for you to do. And they're trying to box you and jam you in there. And if you feel like, oh, that's necessary for you to do that in order to maintain momentum and keep your success alive, that's the sacrifice you have to make. I think that's when it happens, where you do it because now you're a successful guy who's supposed to be appearing successful first of all, and that sometimes requires you to sing someone else's song who somebody wrote and which you don't feel, but all the other professionals and people around you telling you like, yeah, you need to do that, but you may have feelings personally like, oh, I don't like this is stupid, etc., and you still perform. Yeah, I think that happens. That does
yeah,
happen.
because you can't be, like we are saying before, right? You can be pigeonholed by the audience in terms of
Yeah,
what they want, and your manager will be pressing you like, no, you have to sing this style because
yeah,
this
yeah.
is what people want. If you do it differently, dude, we spent millions of dollars on you doing
Right.
this concert. If
Yeah,
you just
okay.
decided to just do whatever you want, like, no, like this, you're not allowed to do that. But money is on the line,
That's
right?
true. That's true. So when that commercial aspect comes in and other people's interests are on the line, your creative freedom goes out the window.
Yeah. It's there, it will be pressures, right?
Yeah.
If they're nice about it, they will be like trying to convince you. But if someone, they will
Yeah.
just be like, no, absolutely not. I spend the
Yeah.
money. I want you to sing
And I'm
whatever that I
sure there
want
are
you to
all
sing.
kinds
And
of
it's,
clauses and legal things that being used specifically for those kind of situations. Because I mean, I think artist, a true artist who just is passionate about this whole process of creativity, they exactly want to be as free as possible to do
yeah.
whatever they want because that's the nature of creativity. it kind of is supposed to surprise you. It is an experimentation, it is a risk, but that means that a lot of it can be complete garbage. And when you become to a certain tier of artistry, you can't afford to put out garbage.
Yeah.
So there's a
But
whole system around you to make sure you don't fumble like that.
but this part is also like, for example, I've been watching some people analyzing Denis Villeneuve's filmography. So a lot of people are finding like really nuggets of gem in all his movies. Like he's just very deliberate. Like every
Mm.
movie that he makes, there's every shot, every single thing it has. So he has a system, right? All these say, I just say famous filmmakers, they have their style. And what that is they have a methodology, they have a system in which they do it. And they themselves, if you're an auteur, you know exactly what you want. So that's the artistry. Like a lot of times, yes, you can do your creativity sort of experimentations and things, but I think the people, these masters, they have a certain intuition, if you will, or certain things about, okay, I know what's good. I know this is fundamentally good, and that a lot of people gonna appreciate it, right? Because he maybe tapped into that kind of fundamental human connection, if you will, or something deep in kind of humans aesthetic kind of um like how people appreciate art or the artistry. So the great artists, like they would understand what that is for them and how they can play around with it, right? So you could say, oh, you want to be creative. You couldn't just be throwing paint on the wall and see what happens, right? There could
Yeah.
be multiple things you can do trying to be creative. But I think the true masters have a sense, almost intuitions, like what's good and what's not. Because what distinguish between good art and bad art? Because there's definitely bad art out there, right? Where people see it and it's like, nah, that's not.
Right. It's definitely part of the artistry is that you do have to have a strong sense of aesthetics. And then also, hopefully, with experience, you do get to, you've encountered enough art of both your own and others to see that there's can be a certain form, a specific form and influences that have already been mastered and set in a certain way, which is essentially your competition, right? Your benchmark. So if there is a drawing with a pencil in black and white, and it's great proportions, realistic, etc., and you do something that looks like a kid's drawing, it's not a competition, right? It's not, you're not there yet. You haven't mastered the form enough to be of any notable value. Yes.
So yeah, the specific one I was looking at is how some people were dissecting the movie Sicario in that famous scene of that shootout on the border
Oh, yeah.
crossing.
I remember that.
They were doing shot by shot comparison. Like basically there is a meta meaning behind every single shot, or more or less every single shot, because there is a meta message behind just the way the door is open and the rear mirror. You can see images of another actor,
Mm-hmm.
and so they kind of put you in that situation where some shots are done inside the car of the
Mm-hmm.
guys being killed, and then you have other shots of the guy who doing the shooting. So it gives you these points of views within a whole sequence of like
Yeah, it makes
it.
you, makes it much more immersive, right? It
Yeah,
paints
like
it like
as
it's
if you are
real
being
thing
shot right
unfolding. Yeah.
there, right? So that point of view, so it's things like that, like he set it up so masterfully in
It's
terms of the
attention to detail, right? He thought
attention
about
to detail.
all the things like how do we make it so realistic that people feel it, that people like understand the danger and the craziness of this situation. It's that. It's asking the important questions and then actually doing something about building in those details into the actual
And
movie.
some of it, because in that specific medium of film, it's that psychology, it's that underlying psychology of where you stage the shot. Is this kind of subconscious? It's almost getting into essentially, Carl Jung's, whole subconscious, like the idea that this kind of shot will give you that kind of feeling. And so as you're watching it, you don't even actively kind of analyze, but you
Right.
feel it
Of
because of
course.
that position, give you that right away, it give you that signal. If you shot from down below, it's giving you a specific feeling. If it's shot from high up, it gives you another sense of feeling. So it's really manipulating these elements. So a master would know all the techniques,
Yeah,
right?
it's
They will
shaping the
understand.
experience with all these dimensions of control, right? Everything that you can
Yes.
manipulate, you do. And that's the, yeah,
So
that's
so the
the level
mastery
of genius.
being, I guess, a great artist would be like they understand all the levers and they're
Yes.
able to be creatively manipulate them in ways. So it means that you're not just doing random stuff. You're not just like trying different things and see
Of
how what
course, yeah,
sticks.
you really you can do a lot of experimentation in it, but it would require you to know exactly what's important, right? And then do use all those levers into conveying that and depicting that in a certain way. That's what meaning is. This is where, just a quick note with like, because I've been experimenting with AI so much, and I realized what makes like AI
Good prompt.
slop. So when, because AI doesn't know what meaning is, because meaning is inherently connected with experience. You would need to experience to understand what a thing means. And AI has nothing like that. And it made me realize that AI will never become conscious, because
Mm.
the whole topic of meaning is connected inherently with experience, which is connected inherently with consciousness, which is not, it's not like, it's not a random mathematical thing or something. It's not a code. It's this, whatever mysterious thing it is. But I realized that when I was generating some images, and usually they're all based on my own ideas, but I experimented with some which are purely based with AI interpretation and AI building out the prompt itself to making the art, and they were all garbage, dude. I looked through dozens of them and like, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't look visually impressive. This doesn't come together at all. And it was so interesting looking at it, because I'm like, wow, like it's still art in the sense that it's, it has a form of art with a picture, but there's nothing in it. It has no connection, no meaning. It doesn't come together because all the meaning consists of things that are connected with each other. There's a string that follows through. But with AI art, there will be a piece there, a piece here, and they have nothing to do with each other. There's no connection. You can't connect them into a story. You can't explain them. And that made me realize that's what also good art is. It is a cohesive story that you can comprehend on either on subconscious level or conscious level, where it's all obvious, but it definitely has to tell a story.
Yeah.
And the more detail to it there is,
Yeah.
the more effective and kind of punchy the story is.
I was watching this analysis of some guy. He was doing this kind of more like about charisma or how to. So he analyzed some movies and stuff and kind of use that as an example to say, okay, this is, say, a part that they did that kind of affects the people you're talking to and that type of thing, right? So analyzing that. And he was analyzing the speech from Dune 2, the one at the end where Paul was talking to the whole siege, right? Proclaiming he is the Lisan al Gaib. Like that whole speech, he was analyzing that. And it was, I never thought about it, but he kind of went through that in that kind of way of thinking. He goes through the speech and it just amazes me how they actually shot it, because the way they shot that whole scene, not only was the performance was superb, but the way that they framed that whole speech was also very interesting, because initially he went with the shock and awe, right? He just went in and saying, nobody here can challenge me. So
Yeah.
that's like the proclamation. So he get everybody's attention, right?
Yeah.
This is how he started. He started off with, I need something to attract everybody's attention to me. So that's, he did that. And then right away, he went down into a specific individual. It's like to prove my point, right? It's like none of you can challenge me. Why? I might be the one that you've been dreaming about, right? So he went right into that one person. I know you, future. I know exactly what went on in your head right now.
To prove them, to
to
confront
prove
them
them
that this is reality. This
to
is
prove
real.
it, because I can't just convince everybody saying, "Oh, I'm the one," right? But I need to prove to you as an individual. And he focused on a warrior, an everyday person, right? Essentially, in that society, everybody's a warrior. So he's like a commoner. He went down and convinced him. And right away, he switched to talk to the tribal leader, say, you as well. I know exactly what you did. I can predict the future, right? So he both convinced the everyday commoners, and he also turned and convinced the leadership why I'm proclaiming why I'm right, right? So that builds up the entire thing. So it's like that kind of how you would convince people is you need to be specific. You need to talk to people's like as a leader, you need to convince people why they should follow you. And part of that is the storytelling in itself, sort of build that story in your mind why he makes sense, right? So it's specific to you, not because he's trying to convince everybody else. It's like to you, why you need to follow me. So I was just amazed how they set the whole thing up, both the way they read the script, how the words that he says in that segment, and how they shot it, and this whole idea about even the way the speech is supposed to unfold, right? It's this kind of bigger and smaller and sort of contrast between that. So it's the artistry in all of that, right? And then you experience that whole scene. You're amazed that they did this, both the acting, the cinematography, how they set up the whole thing. And you just as the Fremen in there, like it basically put you in the position of this Fremen.
Right.
You're like
immersive.
You were like who the hell are you to tell us that you are better than us? That's the whole reaction, right? And then slowly you understand, oh shit, he's actually knows the future. Like what? Like, so then you get to, oh, this is what happens. How you would be compelled to believe in the guy, right? It's like you are just being brainwashed right then and there. So again, that's a long way to say that, artistry comes in many forms, and it's both in kind of how, in that way, it kind of has something to do with charisma. As an artist, you have to have some sort of attractive power in terms of what you understand about the world and how you are pushing your vision out into the wider world. Like say, hey, maybe you should look at things this way, and you give them compelling reasons why they should, so because everybody would try to poke hole into your story. Like if you as an artist, you present an art to the wider world, people will be like, okay, is this good art? Is this impactful to the audience in terms of the audio, the visual, whatever medium you're doing? There has to be that like, oh, I love the sound. And you're designing that, right? Imagine if you build up that whole, like, okay, initially you're gonna have this, gonna have that. It reminded me of Mick Gordon, right? When he made it was like so specific. He even when he doing the music, he's like, this is genius. He like, what's the pace of this this sequence?
It reminded me of that. It's a specialist that is looking at the project and also understanding that it has to match the whole vibe,
the nature.
The nature of what this whole thing is supposed to be, and the fact that he's a specialist, he can concentrate on just that one dimension of it. That's why these bigger creative projects like games and movies, they require so many people and so many specialists, because just to even think and creatively solve those problems, it requires all of that time. So once someone else is doing like shooting a scene, at the same time, hundreds of other people are doing their own little small things for specific little components and aspects of it. This is how all of this great art requires so much involvement and so much. It's like it's a metaphor for the whole of life, right? Where all of us are doing our own little bit. But if it's done really well, and if it's every person is in their place and is playing to their strengths, something amazing happens at the end. And the Mick Gordon thing, like the way he matches the vibe, like that, I really like that, because
it's so crazy.
He's asking all the right questions, essentially. A big part of it is asking all the right questions, like what it needs to be, how is it matching it, what are the extremes of how we can really depict it. I really like this exploration of extremes too,
because I think that is akin to you sowing that seed and let it grow, right? But you need to know the nature of what the plant is. You need to know their cycles, how much water they need, and that is how you cultivate the garden. You need knowledge. You need to know what you're doing in this case, where
you need to figure it out.
Because you see, he's matching so as he does the production for music for these games, he basically matches the trailer. I just say he's just gonna find out what that taste of the whole music is going to be for the whole game.
And then creates kind of like a style specific to that little franchise.
So means that he's trying to get to the bottom of what the nature of this product is, of what the vibe is, and he's trying to get that vibe, and he's trying to match it. But it means that he has a whole arsenal at his disposal. So that's the creativity part. It comes in. He's like,
He has the
I don't
arsenal.
know.
More importantly, he has the sense and the sensitivity and the aesthetics to understand what it is. Because I myself am dealing with this right now, as I've been making a lot of music with AI. But the biggest part of it, of what's involved in figuring out like what's good and what's not, is engaged in that sense. But imagine that. How do you gauge when a piece of music sounds good or not? Like if you
Yeah.
listen through dozens of those tracks, which is what is required in that process, like you literally have to, like, you generate a song and you listen to it. And then I have to do that, like, at this point in the process, like it's kind of getting crazy a little bit and obsessive, because I'm constantly listening to music as a result, because I'm constantly thinking about, like, okay, is this what it needs to be? Like, what my intention is, this matching my intention? And it's becoming more and more difficult, strangely, as it goes along the way, because my criteria is being raised higher and higher. Because, like, okay, no, it needs to be more refined and shaped this way. But this stance of aesthetic, it requires you to really concentrate on a thing and really identify it, really, really, like, be both attentive and honest about it. So, in that sense, like, I don't even know what that is. That is some kind of sense of aesthetics, but that's nobody but humans have that. Like, that's unique to
Yeah, like you
humans.
need to train. It's basically what taste is. You got to train
Right.
for
It's
it,
a
right?
taste.
It's almost
Yes.
like, because it's almost like, see, in this example of music making, it's like, of that, what you want is spontaneity, right? But that comes into only come into being if you already have all the kind of, not just the knowledge, but the feel of why you should put this one in right at this moment, right? Do I need a hi-hat here? Or do I need some kind of other things coming into this? So it's like, because I think this is what creative do. It's like they want to play freely, but it is within the boundary of good taste. It's like, okay, I see this is the tempo. All right. What if I add this? It almost like come automatically, right? You're not thinking,
Exactly.
oh, should I use this or not? It's like
When you have
I
enough of a mastery, you literally do know what needs to be there, and it's some kind of assembles itself, yeah, in
yeah.
real time in front of you. But it is with you having enough experience, having you the musical sense and everything to understand what goes there. But again, how that understanding actually happens, it's just a
I
sense.
because
It's like a
sometimes I have this.
intuition almost.
Yeah, I do have this feeling with writing as well. Because as I was writing, sometimes it happens to me. It's like
Sometimes it feels like you're
flowing.
cooking.
It's flowing like waters. Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
exactly
yeah.
how. Because sometimes it's so meta too. Like the word that you use is specific, but is evoking some meta sense within the story itself. So it's like multiple levels. As you read it, it's like, oh yeah, this character is reminiscing about something, and then there's history within that, and there's more to it than just the word itself. So that's what amazes me sometimes. Like it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes you do hit those like, okay, like somehow my mind is working, is cooking right now. It's like it's
Yes.
allowing that flow. Like I get this. It's not like, okay, I see this is something flowing out of me that I didn't design this. I didn't plan
Right.
this.
So what
It
is
just,
that?
what is that exactly? I'm
How
like,
does
what
it
the,
work?
like what the fuck is this? It's
Yeah.
like it's happening. Okay, cool. This is nice, but then why? I don't know. Why did I use that word? Why did I use this specific phrase? And
Yeah.
it's
I feel that too. I feel that also sometimes when I write my thoughts and try to evolve into something. But what I noticed, when that happens that way with a flow, is when there is an earnest inquiry, where there's always almost like an
mm.
itch you're trying to, like, figure something out. That's when it happens the best. And that, I guess, part of the recipe is some kind of curiosity almost. Like, it's almost like you need to get curious about the character and the situation and what happens there and why.
But also, I think all of it, now I think about it, I think the important part of it is also you want to play in this sandbox that you create yourself, meaning that you need to create constraint for yourself. So it's not like creativity in the sense like, oh, it can just try to find out whatever. It's like you must kind of create boundaries for yourself. It's almost like creating a game and creating an objective, right? You're creating the obstacle by which you need to overcome. So it could be a specific style, a specific meaning that you want. This is what happens. In the example that we talk about Mick Gordon and also with Hans Zimmer's in terms of Doom's soundtrack, like he basically, when he first composed Doom soundtrack, he was like, okay, I need to make it as real as possible, as if I'm creating this music in universe. If so, there cannot be any music instrument that I think will not exist in that world. So see, he's creating these constraints for himself. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, it has to make sense. It has to make sense in the universe.
Yeah,
So
that's a really good point.
right. So I think in Mick Gordon, he's also doing something similar. It's like, okay, I see the vibe of the game. So I need it to be this specific kind of thing. And why he's doing that, right? Like all the games that he's making in that specific style is like, it's kind of psychotic, like so that's
Right,
why he's
right.
doing the distortion. It's like, what if I
Yeah,
distort the shit out of that sound? Right. So meaning that it can give you that kind of almost psychosis feeling. It's like, yeah, it's going crazy, right? All the game in the game, it makes sense, right? You're just killing everybody and just go berserk or violence and just in that kind of vibe. So right, so see that's what he's playing with. Okay, what if I, like you were saying, being curious, like what if I set a question to myself, right? Okay, what if this is the constraint and I need to work within this? And you can be
that's
more
true.
creative. You can be more creative with more constraint because
Yeah, because that
you're gonna try to find
context,
out.
that is like a seed, is a seed that you then grow out with you flesh out the rest of it. It's very true. So then, and it's also see, it reframes that this constraint is now not a constraint, it's a seed. Because creativity is like, think about any book or any piece that was, created in any world. It's based on what? It's based on that, it's almost like random, essentially. It's like, yeah, I have this vision is like that. Well, why it's like that? Well, why not? Because I think it's going to be interesting. It's pretty much that. So it's a good way to see every kind of constraint just that way. It's vision that you just try to unfold and flesh out, and then at the end of it, you have a great, world or experience. But I do like seeing that. That kind of reframes all of even the creative projects that you'd be hired on, and you say you don't know nothing about. You are there as a creative force to help bring about a vision. It doesn't matter whose vision it is or what it is, but your creative force will help shape it into something greater than you can possibly do it yourself, for example. So I like it. It made me think about that reframing, kind of changed my view on the nature of creative commercial work just through this conversation.
Yeah, it's the I mean, you define what that constraint is, and that kind of forces you to be creative, actually, right? Because
It's true. Another example, it just came up. Like I'm helping my friend to manage a creation of a short film series about her hikes, and there's a sizable team that is gathering up there. But essentially, it's a not for profit project, right? It's everybody's there to just practice their skills, pitch into something cool, maybe have some references and make some connections, etc. So no budget, which means there's a lot of problems that to overcome because any type of big project requires a lot of stuff, tools, organization, processes, etc. So for me as a project manager, it's a big challenge because
yeah,
I need proper corporate level tools which cost money, and if there's no budget, no budget, so nobody's going to pay money for it. But for me personally, like if you ask me if I was being paid for a job like that, I wouldn't even take it on because the amount of
too much.
headache and BS that you would have to deal with manually, which just doesn't have to do at all if you just use proper tools that exist on the market. So it's definitely a challenge for me because now I will have to bootstrap the solutions together and do a bunch of manual work. But within that process, now I'm realizing, yeah, there's an opportunity to become creative with these constraints. So I'm kind of now going to look at it from that standpoint. I'm going to see, okay, what can I do without these tools? Maybe I'll find a better, cooler way. Maybe I'll
Right.
find some kind of cool way to do it, which doesn't even require those things. So it's an example of how this reframing can
I
help
think
you.
it's a common kind of a common occurrence. I think what was that saying? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah,
So it's like, yeah, you come up with these solutions because it's like there's nothing else. It's like, okay, we need something done. So how can we figure it out, right?
yeah, yeah.
Given that fact that we don't have unlimited resources, unlimited time, or So people get inventive. That's the part of intelligence. So that can go with scientific discovery, inventions, and also goes with creativity and art, right? So it's the different manifestation, but the same kind of mental, like the pathway is sort of the same, right? You try to figure it out. What's the connection I can make in this current setup? Like if this is all I have, what can I do with it? Right? Like you can do this with cuisine actually, right? As well. Like okay, I have limited kind of food stocks, so what can I
Right.
create that's like
Yeah,
new and
it's all these constraints for sure. I mean, that's probably how a lot of culinary things have been discovered
yeah,
too. That people were forced to combine and experiment. Like, well, I'll just have this. What
yeah,
if I combine it? Oh my god, it's amazing.
it's actually good. So
Yeah.
yeah, like basically coincidence can happen, right? And I guess that's the beauty of it too. Like if you know enough about your methodology, sometimes like you want that flow to just kind of just come in and so you can actually come up with something new. Because imagine, right? If you do, especially with all these productions of like commercialized work, like like soundtrack for like we're talking about for like people like Hans Zimmer and all these composers, like imagine you have this big project, you have to understand what's going on, what the movie is about, and then you have to create new music for it. So it's like it's a challenge of like, okay, how much new stuff can I make,
Yeah.
right? And also like you can't everybody have a signature, right? If you
Hmm.
listen to Hans Zimmer, you can pick up some of that. Okay, this is kind of his signature thing. He does this often.
Yeah.
So
You
there's
would like something and
so there's
gravitate
that
toward that.
trademark almost as well. Like you want that to kind of be part of it as well, like
Yeah,
like your signature.
for sure.
But then you also don't want to do the same thing every single
Yeah.
time. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do you solve for that? This is
Yeah.
why this is why that constraint idea is so important because like okay, so you're limiting yourself to the world or whatever, and then you figure okay, this is easier now. I don't have to consider
Yes,
so
but
much.
I think it will. That's where the balance has to come out. It can't be. There isn't a formula that you can figure
Right.
out
Yeah.
in any art or really anything. What you were talking about reminded me of the fact that how like if when people use AI for writing, it's it uses all the same because it's an algorithm. It uses all
Yeah.
the same
All the same.
algorithms, cliches, and the way of saying things, and people don't like that because it gets old, it gets too recognizable, and it becomes a cliche way of saying things, and you are just it's not conveying the meaning well enough because it's trying to make it take the same form everywhere, So it becomes less meaningful when you do that. And I think it's something like that with this creative process where yeah, you can figure out some formula, but you can't treat it that this formula will work for all of your creative projects. You can employ it here and there intelligently, but essentially you have to start every creative project like that from scratch, kind of like what we just talked about. You start with the seed, start with understanding what this project is trying to be, and then just be a blank slate. Essentially, you have to forget everything you know. You have to do the Zen beginner's mind, where you just a blank list, and you're like, okay, what does this want to be? I think that's the secret, and some parallels with gaming, I have to say, because some of these games that I've been playing, they made me realize that that's the best strategy because some of the games, not to get too specific, but essentially you're dealt a bunch of cards and you may have a strategy to play them a certain way. But really, what you should be doing, you should be watching what cards the opponent has and make the strategy based on that. Because you may have a specific deck with where you have a specific strong cards, but you don't know how it will work with the opponent's cards. So the real strategy is in constantly paying attention and reforging the strategy in real time with every play. It's that. So it's nothing that you can select a winning algorithm, but winning formula for anything. For writing, for music, for art, you do have to almost like create something original from scratch every time, at least in some way, shape, or form. You can't put it in through the formula, the guys, because
Yeah.
that's how we get the term formulaic.
Formula.
It's too
Yeah.
formulaic.
It's long changing.
Yeah.
And
So
in this,
true
yeah.
true
In
creativity is kind of like shapeless like that.
it's in the same way you can think about how Napoleon militarily, he was just a genius and creative at that. Like he can just create battle plans right on the fly. So, okay, I see. All right, I'll
Yeah,
exploit
yeah.
that right there. He's changing it on the fly. So that's why
Because they're
he's
dealing with a
unpredictable.
unique situation
Yeah,
every
but
time.
he knows enough about what will maintain my strength, what will be a good tactic, right? So he's imagine being a commander like that. Like that's crazy. Like you're able to figure out the battle plan right then because you have so many people you got to direct to make that into a reality, right? To attack, to defend, to all this stuff, and then you got to rely on a system. Like all these people have to pass the message that you're the change of plan to the commanders on the field, and then they make the changes. So it's both like imagine the
You
amount
have to
of
understand the system, what the effects down the line will be from all those actions and how they will unfold. You literally have to envision all of this. If you see the desired outcome in all of this, then you put it into action. But yeah,
yeah
that's the genius of it, that you are comprehending
yeah,
all of this.
and then there's the whole game within games, right? Like you're trying to play, like you're trying to feint, right? You try to make
Yeah,
a move to
because it's
the
the part of the
opposition
mechanic.
make the opposition think that you're going to do this, but you actually have something else in plan and you want them
Yes.
to react to you so that you can. So it's that whole mind game, right? So that takes creativity. You cannot be a dummy and just doing formulaic. Okay, so the book says you're supposed to attack now when the opponent do something else. Like
Yeah.
no, you gotta free from that. You gotta
You
play with
have
it.
to understand the whole context. So it's one thing when you employ this strategy because you know this is the perfect situation when to employ it. But it's another if you just read about it in the book and you say, oh, okay, if he goes here, then I go there. No. What
Yeah.
is this in the larger context? How will it perform
And
overall?
this kind of reminds me of this tied into education. A lot of the times, kids these days, and when we go to school, we're just being taught the formula, right? We're not being taught how to think, how to be creative, and it's not just going into the arts that you need to be creative. You need to be creative in anything in your
Everywhere,
life,
for sure.
you know?
That's
Because
essentially, at that level, creativity becomes synonymous with intellect, right? Intelligence.
yeah, like nobody taught you how to run a business in school. Nobody taught you how to like they give you example. If you go to business school, for example, they just tell you, oh, the successful example of a successful business, they did this, this, and that. But then there's a bias there too because of survivorship bias. They might survive because they're the one that end up surviving. What
Right.
about other factors? So when you get too much into the books, that's why you're like you're too bookish. When they say you're too bookish, it's like you read too literally into the. So you need to kind of start thinking. Okay, maybe it's almost like you need to think everything as a metaphor. Okay, what does that? It's not literal. Sometimes it's not literal. You need to take the meaning at a higher level and correlate those. And those are the kind of things you see this all the time, right? You have all these entrepreneurs, for example, like they put one and one together and nobody else has thought about it. That's where their intelligence comes into play. You have all these successful businessmen, and what they did was not because they were smarter than everybody necessarily, but they're like, you know what? What if I do this? Right? And they see in the general market that there's nothing like this that exists. And then they kind of have a thesis and then they go with it and then they found out, oh, you know what, this could be an actual business plan. And then they carry out that plan and then they create something. Just that creativity is so vital, I think. It's almost like in kind of the more I just say Eastern, not philosophy, but like in the Eastern spirituality, for example, the idea is that, well, Tai Chi, right? The idea that we have these energies and the yin and yang, and the yang is actually the creative force. The idea is that you want to cultivate your creative force, and that is represented by the sun, the kind of it represent the mountain, it represent these creative forces out there in the nature. This is how the Chinese were reading into in the ancient Chinese were reading into everything. It's like okay, there are two different sides of things. There's the sun, there's the moon. There's a yin, there's a yang. There's a man, there's a woman. So it's a different aspect of that. So you want to and the kind of the yang, the positive and negative aspect. The positive part um is also a creative force. So you want to cultivate that incongruent with all the other the I wouldn't say negative, that's kind of the word is too loaded, but the idea of the opposite.
Yeah, because the yang to me is essentially this form, right? It's something that takes form, but the yin and the other aspect is the space where
Yes.
it can happen.
Yes.
Because for form to be present, space to be present has to be present. Space to has to provide an opportunity for form to unfold somewhere, and they're
Yeah.
inextricably connected.
Yeah. So it's this interplay. I think that this is not just for art. Yeah, it's definitely not just for artists, man. Every single daily life, it takes creativity about how you want to achieve a certain thing or,
Yeah, all of it. It requires all of the creativity. That's why I'm thinking this topic can go on for forever because it's far-reaching. At the core of it, creativity is really at the center of life, if you think about it, from all these perspectives. So, should we explore the next ideas in the video, or do you want to talk for another couple hours about whatever we're
we
talking
can
about?
go to the next segment of
Yeah, there
yeah,
you go.
so
Yeah, are you familiar with Bob Burnham and his creative
I
stuff?
think I have seen it a long time ago, but I'm not really familiar with him. I think I've seen a video or
Yeah, I've
sometime,
seen,
but
I think a couple or a few of his specials. This very funny, very musically creative, very generally creative person. But yeah, that idea, the crux of it, where the artist feels this conflict of he is an artist creating some kind of entertainment for the audience, which creates by default this relationship with the audience, which you are thinking by default like, okay, how is this going to be received? Is the Because if you're, especially as a performer, right, your goal is to entertain and provide a pleasurable experience. But he is so smart that he can't even stop thinking about this. It's like a recursive process of, okay, where's the art? Where's the me? Where's the audience? What do I owe them? How are they shaping me? And you start kind of going crazy about this because these are unanswerable questions. This is just all the components for art even to be there. And your role
yeah.
is just, it's a role. But what are you the artist without the audience? Could you really then create your whole musical in your room and prepare it for? No, because then it wouldn't, if it never comes out and nobody
Yeah.
sees it, then the art isn't completed in a sense,
Yeah.
especially if you're a performer, right?
It's it's this strange thing that, like the reality is almost like we have to have eyes on it, you know?
It's a participatory
It's
thing.
yeah, like everything is so like we can understand the fact that yes, there are things out there that exist without us being there to witness it. But funny enough, I seen this one theory and they're talking about time, and the theory is that time is almost like those games where like a what do you call even those games? Not turn based, but like the moment you move, everything move. But if you stop, everything stops. Like there are
Yeah.
some games like that. Like if you move your character, then everything is moving, and react. You have to react according to But the moment you stop,
Oh,
everything stops. So
what kind of games is that? Is that like some kind of tactical shooters or something?
yeah, something like that. Okay, oh
I've played some of those tactical ones, yeah, where it's like the situation unfolds and then you can pause and freeze and kind of adjust your course of
yeah, yeah.
action.
So they were saying the theory is that the time is like that, where without an observer, like time doesn't exist, or at least the sense that if you're not there to observe it, time does not move, does not. Yeah, there's
Whoa.
a theory, of course. Is I don't know how how credible that is, but that's very interesting to think about, right? But all I'm saying is here is like seems that observer effect is so important to kind of just how our daily lives and how humans, as far as we're concerned, right? That there has to be eyes on it. Like if something happens, if there's nobody there to watch it, in terms of society, it might as well not happened,
It's,
right?
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's kind of weird because, I mean, I would definitely feel it. I mean, I even feel it, in things like exercise. Like I did a bunch of exercise and yoga by myself. Somehow it's not as even motivating to do it on your own.
It's almost
So
like you want to show off, right? Almost.
so it's almost like you do want to other people to witness you for
Yeah, it's like,
whatever reason,
look
right?
at me,
Obviously,
I'm doing this thing right
pretty
now.
much. Yeah, it's like, witness the shape, form, grace, whatever. But I was so surprised to find that because like I thought like, oh, I don't care about that. But you do.
Kind of do.
You kind of do because it's there. I felt its effects. And that is interesting. I think that just goes on to highlight the fact that we're all so inherently social that we don't really, and you can't live outside of society because I mean this is where we let's not fall off the rails too far
Yeah,
because it cuts into a whole different
right.
topic that I wanted to cover at some point, but into the topic of identity, because who would you be if the society
Yeah.
was not there to at all?
Because
What
you
kind
see,
of identity would you have?
yeah, like I think we all have this kind of it's kind of this conflicting thought in our heads, right? Sometimes we wish that we are not depending on anybody, right? You will feel great if I didn't have to do this job, if I didn't have to depending on these people's expectation for me to
But
perform
then
something.
essentially there would be almost like no meaning at all because
Yeah, but then
what's the context of your existence?
yeah, like if I don't do that, if I don't depending on other people, then how do I what are you gonna like
And you don't have to provide anything or do anything for anybody
yeah.
else.
So even if let's just say your survival situation is taken care of and that you're
Right.
absolutely alone,
What are you going to do?
you don't feel great at all. It's
No.
like there's nobody to share my
That
ideas,
would,
my
yeah,
feelings, my
exactly.
nothing. There will be
The lack
nothing.
of sharing would be really problematic because everything loses its meaning. There's no context. Like if you spend a year painting a thing that only you can creatively guide and whatever you want, and you have all the ways and resources to do that, but then nobody else gets to experience it, then it loses any kind of purpose of even doing that. Because what are you making it for yourself, huh? You're not
No,
really
you
making it
don't
for
you don't
yourself,
really need it. Do you
and you
need to
don't
make
need it.
anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you were say if the case is that you can be creative but nobody gonna ever know it, then you're just like, why am I even bothering then? Right? It's like
Exactly.
why even do any of these things?
It's like a
I wouldn't
genie
need it.
granted you a wish that
Yeah.
you are the most creative person in the world, but nobody gets to see any of your art. That would be useless, right?
Yeah, it's like what are you doing it for? Entertain
Right.
yourself? Only you would know what you create, right? So
Yeah.
but even then it's like okay, as we as we extract this that is also that you need to for you to be creative you also have to be knowledgeable, you have to have enough experiences to kind of translate that, right? If you don't know anything at all, if you're not then you can't really create where are you going to create it out of, right? If you don't have the uh, the experiences, the information, or some sort of experience out of your life to think about, to talk about, then there is nothing to relate. So your whatever you make has no context. Like any musician, any writer, any creative person, they're doing art. The artwork that unfolds has some personal connection to them in terms of their experiences, and they're expressing it in a way that I think if it resonates, it means that it's a shared sort of feeling, right? It's a shared sort of like, yeah, people get you. They understand where you're coming from, and they appreciate the way that you unfolded that in an artistic way of kind of you're essentially explaining things that they don't have words for, the feeling that they have no words for, but they're like, I know exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you're trying to convey to me, right? So art is communication. It's about a way to kind of share this thing. I think there's a lot of part of the thing that we kind of appreciate. I just say ancient arts. I imagine a piece of music that's been made for hundreds of years ago,
Hmm.
but you resonate with it. And part of that appreciation is like, wow, this person who lived hundreds of years ago can express what
Right.
I'm feeling right now. You're amazed at the fact that there's that connection. It's like, wow, that person, despite whatever differences that they have culturally or whatever, but they can still express this fundamental human sort of feeling. And you're like, wow, that's cool, right? It's that kind of connection that everybody's making. So I think especially I don't know, for introverted people, it's very hard because it's like a lot of us are very creative, or at least we have this impulse to be creative, but part of us are also kind of tired of all these social interactions. So it's like, it's very conflicting, at least for me. It's like, yeah, I don't want to socialize that much, but it's like almost like the creative part is the only way that I can see how I would interact with people. It's almost
Right.
like I don't want to know you, but I want you to know me. It's like I want you to know me through the work
Yeah,
that I create, not
either through work or through, yeah, it's almost like this identity gets externalized, and you associate more yourself more with art or something, and this is how you prefer to be known, through art, through how you do it, because that better represents who you are or something.
yeah.
Made me think about that.
But the problem is, as you create your work, there's gonna be expectations now, right? That's as was showing the clip. Eventually, if you find any sort of success, then you feel this pressure, like this performance part of it, right? Where it's like, oh, now it becomes a job. It's like, oh, I had to figure out what's new now.
Well,
You,
ideally, it's kind of like you essentially people love you for who you are, right? Not what you can deliver and what specific shape you do. And I think Bo Burnham is a good example of that because he's just, I think, a true artist. Once they get to that level of success, once you know that you have some kind of talent, and you've been able to put something out there, you have access to some kind of creative infinite source. That's what I believe in. So I don't think that you should really concern yourself with pleasing the audience in a specific way, because you are just, creative process is a way to process things. It's kind of you sharing your experiences, your thoughts, your emotions. That's why, like, for Bo Burnham, there's some kind of problem at the core of it, right? And this is very true for many
right.
artists. There's some kind of problem that is even making you talk about it. It's just he decided to bring it into his art and make it a part of the act and bring it up to both the audience
Right.
and himself and like to everybody to look at it.
So
What is going on?
So that might be the part you were talking about earlier, where the idea that how could you be not true to yourself? Maybe in
Right.
this case,
Yes.
he is not exactly true to himself because the art that he makes has some resonance and he feels compelled to kind of play that role, but that's not
Maybe.
exactly
Yes.
him.
I think that's what
This
he's
is
talking
what
about. Yeah.
it manifests into. Because if he really is kind of in his stride, he'd be like, I'm just
It
gonna
will
be
be
who I
complete
am.
confidence,
Yeah,
right?
I'll
There will
be
be
like,
complete
whatever.
harmony.
You guys don't like it, you can just go off. Do whatever you like. I'm just gonna be me, right?
Yeah, but the
Because if
fact
you,
that there's an anxiety and panic attacks,
yeah,
there means that
so
there's some kind of conflict
he's
somewhere.
kind of pandering to the audience in a way, right? In some ways, like he's like, this is not me. I'm not enjoying this process, right? That's kind of psychologically, that's kind of what was going on. So I guess part of the pain for being creative is also how you're interpreting what's going on, right? It's not that, but yes, that you're gonna have pressures from your fans. You're gonna have pressures from people outside, from outside looking in. But I think fundamentally, if you're not happy as a creative, I think you're right that you have to be happy with yourself as a creative. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just gonna do whatever makes money, or like go against
Yeah,
my feelings of what I think is art just
because
because.
at the core of it, think whatever creative force is there, essentially it has an intelligence of its own, which means it wants to do what it wants to do. I think that's true,
Yeah,
which
it's
means that when someone else is completely trying to override it and to go against it, that thing doesn't want to engage. That thing is like, no, I have something to
right.
say. I have something to say my
So
way.
so as an artist, you would naturally, again, this goes back to what we talked about just earlier about self-reflection. That's the highest form of intelligence. You need to self-reflect as an artist, as a person. Be like, okay, am I enjoying myself doing this? Is this what I
Yes.
really want to do? Right? Doesn't matter how successful you are, you have to be able to resist against the pressure, the temptation, and all that stuff, and be like, you know what? Am I doing the thing that I'm wanting to do? Right? And you have to kind of eliminate all the kind of distractions, right? Because you have to have the balls to say, you know what, I'll say no to that contract because that's not me. I can
Yeah.
walk away.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah,
walk away,
easily,
right?
because there could be, you could see, this is the challenge of successful person. They deal with the type of problems
We don't even know
a
how it
normal
feels.
person is
Yeah.
not even aware of, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a long time ago, like Bill Burr had a whole bit of it, which I actually saw in person in Montreal, believe it or not, like 15 years ago or something. He was doing a bit on Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the fact that it's like, his whole bit was like, the dude has been in the zone for decades. You can't even understand the levels of temptation
Yeah.
that type of person with that level of success gets exposed to, because everybody knows who you are. Like I don't. It's a separate archetype at that point, right? But first of all, the temptation, because you do have the power over people, you have resources, etc., etc., etc. So nobody gets challenged more than a creative person like that, morally and all the other ways. Imagine you having that much power and access to everything. What, you're now? Are you sure you're a moral enough person to withstand all the temptations, to touch all the fishes? You do want to touch all the fishies.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to. So I'm not gonna be blaming anybody for anything from the famous people, because you don't even know what they're dealing with at
Yeah.
that level. You know?
It's the same way that, dude, Kanye went crazy because of it's too much pressure, man. It's like what actually make him genius is because he has, people say that he has some kind of manic kind of traits or bipolar or something like that. But that's exactly what made him brilliant. But that very same thing is causing him mental anxiety. And now he's just, all the crazy things he says is just like he's just gone crazy because of the pressure, right? Everybody want him to be, like this kind of what they think he's supposed to be, but he's kind of, I think he's internally trying to fight against that, but he can't win almost. So it's like I don't know. Yes, to us it might seem odd, all the behaviors that he kind of engages in these days. You might write him off as a crazy person, but I think part of that is just like he's dealing with some problems that I don't know, that fame really kind of exemplified it.
Yeah, there's problems with fame, but also just this common theme that there is some kind of mental problem with all these
Artists.
creative geniuses. I mean, that's what kind of partially what this video is about, right? That it's demonstrating all these points. What is that? What is this? I don't even know what to call this, right? Some kind of detunement of, because I mean, this is where it's at the crux of everything. Like, if a person was completely happy and content, would they be making art?
That's a good question. Perhaps
If a Zen
not.
master is sitting in front of a pond and he is completely happy and content,
Why
is
would you
he
do
making
anything?
art?
Right?
No.
Why would you do anything?
No,
Right?
yeah.
Why would you create anything? Why would
There's
you
no fire or impetus to do anything. You're done.
like what they say, right? I remember this Alan Watt quote. The idea that okay, the point of music is playing for the sake of it. There
Right.
is no point in making music other than just enjoying it, right?
Yes.
So sometimes life is like that. Like you have, especially the arts. Sometimes you just have to do it because something compels you to do it, or something just enjoy
Right.
it. Like sometimes you just listen to a piece of music, it's like this is very enjoyable. I don't care what the meaning is. I just want to listen to some cool music. Okay, that's good enough of a reason, right? So, and for
But to
musicians,
create it,
you have an impulse, you have some kind of
yes.
feeling you try to express, and maybe that is good enough on you psychologically. But I think practically speaking, you want to make it into a framework. Like for example, like what we're doing with this podcast, we're putting a framework to all our conversations, which we would have had without this, right? We used to chat between ourselves, but that there's no form to it. Now this creates the framework to which you can do that with. So in that way, you can think of it almost like art can be a therapy as well, because you are expressing yourself creatively, but given the framework that you're trying to become a person who create these arts. So it's not just some random doodle, random thing that you create and okay, then just call it a day at the end of the day.
Right. This is
But
why there's such things as art therapy exists, I guess, because it's a way for you to process things. Like what happened to you, you can use that as an inspiration to process, to depict what it means for you, right? And to maybe see what other connections it has in meaning for you. Yeah, interesting. That
But
art
then,
is definitely kind of therapy like that.
but there is also a discipline. You also have to put in discipline into that as well, because it's like you have to create the best art you can. It's not just like, oh, I just want to vent my feelings by doing a little doodle here and there, and then that's it. You can't just wing it,
Right. Well,
right? You have
that would
to,
be the difference between the art therapy, I guess, and when you decide to make it your,
like, professional. You have to be some kind of
at
professional about
least,
it, right?
yeah, some kind of professional when you essentially choose to pursue it on a consistent basis, right? Because I mean, that's what happened to me in a sense where, I experimented with enough of these things where I know that the process is very fun. So I just want to keep doing it. But part of the process is, of course, okay, well, can I do it better? Because at the end of it, you get some kind of art form, right? And
Right.
you do want it to be perfected. Because truly, if I like make a good piece of music, I enjoy it. Like with music for sure, Pictures, yeah, they look cool. You look at them for a couple minutes here and there, they're fine. But music, you can keep re-listening to it, and if it sounds great, it's gonna be sounding great always, dude. And I've noticed that a lot. So there's definitely a motivation there to improve, essentially, perfect something, right? Consistently make something that you can yourself enjoy. I mean, that's a most wanted skill in life if you ever got to choose one. Make yourself happy with something that you create with just your own creativity.
Yeah. Because, see, this kind of goes back to your fundamental reason for existing, right? Because creativity is part of that sort of expressing your, like, because it's like, okay, you got to ask yourself, what else am I going to do with the time that I have, right? Besides the things you can explain away, like, okay, I had to have a job, I had to get income, okay, all of that. After that, what is it that you want to do with the time that you have, right? So any creative person are like, you know what? I enjoy this thing. I want to create this, and this is what gives me joy. And that in itself is a meaning. Why why would you do anything? Otherwise, you can just do nothing. But you can't. There's the
Mm.
impossible. A person has to do something. Whether you're working, you're doing something. Because some people would just basically they're workaholic because they're not trying to understand themselves, and therefore
Yeah,
they use that
yeah.
as a crutch to kind of make themselves busy. But a creative person is
I
like,
mean, that's even at the core of meditation, like the Vipassana style, where at least the one I tried and with Goenka retreats, is essentially you're supposed to sit down there, and part of the teaching is that while ideally what you should achieve eventually, the format you achieve, is that you sit down and you don't move for a meditation session, which then of course you can extend and you can do 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, etc. Dude, try sitting down for 3 hours without moving. Just that alone. Just that alone. Okay. Just one piece of it. It's impossible to do. So for you to even learn to do that, to just be at rest and at peace and with just that is fine. The body gets numb. Your leg gets numb. This gets itchy. But when you learn to just completely let it go and just like whatever it is, dude, I need to be completely free all of this body problems. You can do it. It's just very, very difficult. It's that because when you're able to do that, then you do get a certain essentially freedom because without it, you don't have it. Yeah, something comes up. Oh, you're now a hostage of that thing. You have this desire, you're now a hostage of that thing because if you never create that distance or ability to be outside of it, you're always it. You are hungry, you're going to get food. You are itchy, you're getting angry because somebody provoked you. They control you now. That's where meditation kind of becomes, highlights that power because otherwise you're constantly completely captured by all these happenings that are happening to you. So again, when are you really in control of anything if that's the case and you're just constantly at a whim of some desire or factor or something or someone else really that is imposing a constraint on you?
right. Well, this remind me, the part of that is, we a lot of times celebrate artists because maybe we see ourselves that the potential, like we basically admire these people because they seem to have achieved something in which we think that we couldn't do ourselves in the way that we wish we were as artistic as these people. We wish that we have the talent or have some like there's a certain sense of projection, right? There's a certain sense of projection, and these people have achieved some kind of alternative lifestyle, some kind of thing that in which they are outside of the norm in a way.
Sure.
And I think a lot of society, because see, society has this kind of contradictory aspect to it. Like part of society want cohesion, right? Wants kind of following a sort of idea or have some kind of common consensus, the common core, that type of thing.
Hmm.
But certain other aspect of society is kind of embracing individualism, creating new stuff. Somebody it has to come from somebody. We all
Hmm.
know that the masses, you don't want to trust the masses in terms of what they think or how they, because that kind of mentality is really kind of not great. Like it destroyed everything because it's
I don't think it's even possible to do anything creatively in that sense because they're not. I mean, at the core of it, what is really uniting us besides the very basics? Like, if you truly ask every person what they want, ideally, as the basics, you want to live in a peaceful society where everybody respects each other, right? And supports each other. So there's only positivity. Nobody sees anybody else as an enemy. Everybody constantly remembers that we are human beings that are just, living on this planet, and we're we are the same, and we're trying to help each other, and we're trying to have a good time. That's mostly what you want. But everything else, there's so many differences in culture, in language, in values, in religions, right, in beliefs, and they're all conflicting. That to find enough of common things in all of that, just creatively, there is not enough stuff to do with there. I don't even think that you can use commonalities among people
yeah.
to
See,
drive any kind of creative efforts like that.
currently the problem you see was a social problem that we have in not just the West, but basically all over the world right now is this kind of idea of, basically the politically correct kind of thinking, right? Where you have these overarching idea about some vague idea of equality of things, but then
Right.
nobody is actually like that's the problem. Like it does not
Yeah,
reflect
define it.
yeah, it does not reflect the actual lived experience of people. You just have this general
Yeah, because
kind of
every
okay,
situation is fairly unique.
yeah, like it sounds great, but then how do you actually carry it out, right?
Yeah.
But then somehow we're being made hostage by this kind of being politically correct, and you can't just say anything. You can't criticize this group of people or that, and just because you will be labeled as racist or whatever, right? So
And it
it
failed because
it
it's already coming
it does
back.
fail,
Like
but these
it
ideas are
did
like
work.
people will kind of suffer from mass psychosis. Essentially, the
Yeah,
idea that they hear this from somebody else and they repeated this, and there's this kind
exactly.
of virtue signaling that does nothing. Like it's basically,
Exactly. It's completely useless. It's like a thoughtless process that just you parrot that, and then you think you're part of the club, which just makes you good. It's so dumb that it just
yeah.
doesn't
But
make any
then the
sense.
people actually, when it comes to their self interest, they do the opposite, right? They
Of
do
course,
like to
because
their
that's what
self
the
interest.
actual real human nature is like.
But then they say, "Oh, it should be all good. It should be everybody should, like yeah, in the perfect world, sure."
Yeah,
But the
rules for
problem
thee, but not for me. That's what they're
that's
doing.
what's happening, right? So this is why individuals are celebrated because they have some ideas in which, okay, it's groundbreaking, or it's okay, I never saw it that way. Is these people giving you thoughts? This is why, for example, right, say on YouTube, for example, you should never close your comment section because you want to hear what people have to say. Because of
Right.
that, because if you ban people from saying anything, it's like you're just trying to like you need to go along with what I'm
Dude,
saying, but I don't
whenever I
accept any.
see that closed comment section on YouTube, I
No,
immediately lose respect for
exactly.
the
You're so
people because, like,
afraid.
what? Why are you doing this?
You're so
What, are you
afraid
afraid
of
of people
criticism, right?
having honest reactions and stuff? What's the problem with that? What do you have to hide or avoid, right? The truth wins out, so
Yeah.
you can't hide from it
So
anyway.
see this in the Western in the Western philosophical line of the cultural lineage, you can trace it back to the ancient Greeks, right, where they have these agoras, forums of people just debating, right? The idea is that the truth wins out. Exactly. If you have an idea, you talk about it, and then other people will poke hole in it and think if it works, then yes, then we agree.
And I guess so. That's another interesting whole angle of it. What is truth and what is truth in art and creativity? Because from this creative standpoint, any kind of truth that you can depict, I guess you could depict various levels of truth, like a collective truth and what's accepted here and there. And you can also depict something that you personally hold true. This is where that whole idea of validity comes out. And when people are saying like, oh, this is my truth, there's a certain reality. I understand what that kind of points to, that, but that is not the truth. So, for example, your truth can be that you worked in several companies, throughout your life, you worked in several companies. That's a very small percentage of companies in the world. So you have some idea, you have some lived-in experience about what these companies are and how they are, but you have no idea, you don't have the stats for all of them, for how they can be, for what all the possible levels of cooperation or types of organizations there are, unless you have that full experience. And nobody has, because nobody has enough time to work in such places. And that's the what I mean by relativity of truth. There is certain relativity of truth because it's incomplete. If it's in all of us, every single person holds only one piece of the puzzle. And if you gather a bunch of people, they will be able to come up with a more real level of truth than each one of them singularly. That's why I guess it depends on what you want right out of the communication process and the art depiction process. But if you did want to, if truth was one of your virtues that you want to practice, it does involve conferring with other people and figuring out what truth should even be.
It's basically consensus. We're trying to reach some sort of consensus.
It is.
Like, do we agree that this is the thing? Right? It's like you're trying to discuss from the artist standpoint. You are essentially having a discussion with the fans, with the viewers, the audience. Like, is this true? This is how I feel. Do you feel this in the same way, right? This is how you resonate with people, because it means that any artistic endeavor, it has to reach some kind of consensus. So yes, you have your lived experience, you have your special kind of personal experience, and that is very valuable to share as well. But the kind of the quality of the art really hinges on how much connection can you reach to the people, to other people, that they share sort of similar feelings almost, right? Situation might be different, but you have some underlying aspect to human kind of, whether it be emotions or some sort of human nature, essentially. That's basically what art is trying to find out. What is the human nature? What is all this thing that we experience in all its manifestations, right? It be like, what is joy? What is sadness? What is melancholy? What is all this thing that we feel, right? It's like you feel compelled to share your feelings about life to other people. It's like, is this how we feel? Is this real? Almost, It's like, is this how it feels to be, say, in love? Is this how it feels to be out of love? Is this how it feels to be broken? Is this how it feels to be, like if you see a sad movie, it's like, wow, I can really empathize with that person because I can imagine how it will happen to me if I were in the same situation, right? Even though that's not true to me, but I can see how that could be true. The saddest movie I have ever seen is Manchester by the Sea. It was a brutal movie, but it was really a wonderful movie because the emotion in there is like, you can feel it. It's that commonality to humanity that you can connect with that person in that situation. So that's what great art, I think, it does. It's like, yes, some of these lived experiences, especially the traumatic ones, you can't empathize. Not exactly, right? Because you haven't experienced it. You can't imagine what it feels like to go through something. Let's just say if you were a veteran, you went through war. Like, nobody can really understand you. There's just no way. But I think what art is trying to do is trying to convey to you the gravity of what that kind of experience would be like.
Hmm.
So in a way, this is why all war movies are really anti-war. They're not never say like, oh, we celebrate war. We make war movies just because we want you to be, you know, this is maybe unless it's true in 40K universe, maybe that they would celebrate war because yeah, like you gotta kill all these motherfuckers. But in the real world, right? Like I don't think any nation never made a movie about war because they celebrate it. No, they're like, no, this is horrible. This is terrible. We're showing you the brutality of what it would be like for real, and we don't want this to happen, right? Even though we kind of sometimes go to watch these movies because it's action, it's kind of
Yeah,
weird,
and there can be like heroism and stuff and
right?
other positive aspects of human nature that are depicted there, but overall, yeah, it paints a
It's a
picture of how
negative
it's horrific. Yeah,
because I have watched so many facts about World War II, and it's just horrifying. Like, this is what we did. This is actually
yeah,
something that happened. People lived through that, right? And
yeah.
died for it. All because of what? All because of some oil fields and some lands that somehow some nation want more than, they just want it, right? It just goes to show how basically stupid humans really are sometimes, like they don't think about we get into trouble. We get into things that we don't understand, and that's going on even right now, right? So that's what the value of art is. It's like it's kind of a cultural mechanism to self-reflect, right? It's a
Yeah.
way for the artist to self-reflect, but it's also conveying that to other people to think about, okay, what about you? Shouldn't you be thinking about what's going on in the world right now, or what's happening, right? Why do we do certain things? Why do we feel this way? Why, because life is almost like a moving target, like it's happening all the time. That is the different, like I feel like it's so difficult to catch up. It's like things are happening so fast, right? Every decade is different. Every decade has its own pros and cons and problems and booms, but like you constantly trying to find out, okay, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do now that this is new technology coming in, new thing here? How do we adjust? And we see the problem right now culturally. You can see how a generation of kids growing up with all this computer and stuff like that, they think very differently than people like you and me because we're born of a specific era. So how we think is very different than people who. So that fundamental change to these people is like almost like evolution.
It is.
You are what you experience. So these kids are experiencing something in society so different
Yeah, and
that
how environment shapes you. I still think about all the time about this one clip I saw that I think one of the older generation people, maybe like millennial or older, they were talking about how I think it's either their kids or something that they were hanging out on like Discord,
huh?
but they were all doing their own things at the same time. So somebody was playing a game, somebody was doing homework, but they're all at the same time like talking and hanging out. But imagine how would that work? Imagine I'm playing a game and you're not playing it and you're trying to do your homework. Those are completely different things that are you're not even sharing any context and it's completely distracting to even engage in it. But
they
because they've already evolved and the technology is there, they essentially invented their own way to communicate and to hang out where their minds are working differently. They don't even need to concentrate or engage in the context. Somehow they're almost like sharing their mind and their experiences and their emotions while living those experiences in real time. It's mind boggling. That's a different even type of consciousness at that level because how is this happening? What do you mean? I can't do that
so
right
they
now. You can't do that right now.
yeah, they adopted
They adopted a new way of
yeah,
communication, essentially,
right, because they're receiving information and they're outputting information
producing
at
it
the
in real
same
time.
time. So it's like multitasking in that sense. Like
Yeah.
they're just like processing different
And they're
information at the
all
same time.
aware of all the experiences the other one has, their reactions, and they can, if it's something exciting happens, they chip in and react to that, and then they're flowing into it. It's like a collective type of multi-experience thing going on. It's trippy, dude.
It's like, yeah, it's like imagine if you upload your mind to the cybernet, right? The idea that you're engaging with all these information, essentially, you
Yeah,
have all these
yeah,
windows of information that you process. Like that's the reality right now, right?
that's
Like
crazy.
people are doing these type of engagements to their worlds, and that's
And
their
that's a different type of human.
right?
And then if you're going to grow up with that, who you're going to be? What kind of society will that be? Will the future society be more connected because of it? Will people exist in groups or something? Like, I don't even know what it does to identity, to,
Maybe because you see right now, maybe that will happen. Maybe there will be a new way for society to kind of reorganize. Because right now, the idea is that, okay, you have your family, you have your friends, or you're supposed to find a significant other, marry and have kids and that kind of family dynamic. But now that's kind of pretty hard to achieve.
it's changing. Yeah.
So maybe the younger kids are deciding, you know what, maybe we don't accept that anymore. Maybe we change it into some kind of, like you're saying, like some group kind of thing. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
they don't accept this kind of monogamy thing anymore. They don't accept this marriage thing anymore because it's not working. You clearly it's not, so maybe they do the whole village thing. Who knows, right? Be like, yeah,
Like communes.
the communes or something like that. I don't know, right? But something is definitely, you can say that it's not adding up because culture is changing so much.
Yeah. It's a lot of factors that make everything change. It's very, very strange. It's very disoriented.
So for artists, it's like you had to be skillful enough to kind of read into what's going on, right? You can say that I think they say that artists are kind of the barometer or the canary in the coal mine sort of culture of society because they pull the alarm first, just as stand-up comedy is so popular, but stand-up comedy also kind of serve a purpose because
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
it gives the space for the artist to just poke hole at things,
Poke
right?
holes, yeah, to really dig into what it actually means, to expose motivations and characters and values and others, and to make audience look at society, look at itself, and just really questions like, do I want to be behaving like this? Do I want to be part
Yeah.
of that society? Do I want to
So
change something on my
it's a
level?
it's a pressure valve, right? This thing evolved naturally because it's a pressure valve for society. People want this. They want a way to, of course, everybody want to laugh, everybody want to be entertained, but the idea is that this is a crucial, serve a crucial point. This is the lever by which society kind of bleed pressure because it's like, okay, we can talk about things that we normally will not be able to talk about, because like comedians are given they're giving a pass to just make fun of things, right? You can make some racist remark because it's a joke, but it's kind of dig at the actual reality of some of the
Yeah,
ridiculous
it
things.
references the actual reality, which what
Yeah.
actually really
So this
happens.
is what people want. In the same way, this is what artists are doing, and comedian are artists. They are artists in that medium of trying to be like, hey, look at this, right? There's a specific way that you do it in that, right, in that field. But all arts are doing that, right? It's like the artists are trying to express and portray the world in which they live in. And the successful ones are the ones that reach consensus with other people. Other people are like, yep, that's how it feels like right now. Or this is very emotional. This is very impactful, right? So I just think that it's almost biological, right? I think this kind of the reason why humans create arts, it's almost like a way to rebalance, a way to kind of express your feelings because sometimes by talking is not enough or trying to explain things is not enough and you want to kind of feel something. You want to feel a connection with a message with it's not just something you can't really communicate it directly.
Right. You know what this makes me think about is there is such a concept of as collective unconscious,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
and if something like that exists, then we are inevitably participating in some kind of informational exchange on an unconscious level, meaning we're engaging with ideas and concepts and behaviors and reactions even without our own conscious understanding of it. So, uh, like Young described the collective unconscious as a deeper layer beneath personal experiences, and it's filled with some certain common archetypes we all are aware of, right? Such as a hero, mother, shadow wise old men, there's a big clusters of associations for us because of their role in society, because of their role in the life cycle, etc. And these ideas and archetypes, that's how they kind of anchor all of us. That's what we have in common as humans, because all those ideas and concepts, they influence in us. They evoke the same imagery, the same associations, etc. So potentially art is kind of like a bridge between these universal invisible patterns that exist in collective unconscious and I guess what is happening in real time in the human world. Because I just, it made me think about how does this collective unconscious, what does it do essentially? What is it? And art has something to do with it, because surely art is connected to the subconscious parts of it, right? This is how imagery comes out of imagination, of dreams. It inspires people, scientists, to actually do stuff. Well, that means it comes out of this unconscious, subconscious space. But if there's enough stuff that where we share in it, I'm just trying to think how it's like it has to be like almost like a recursive process where this unconscious stuff through art surfaces in the conscious world, and then the conscious world and reactions that we then see and understand and consume feeds back into the unconscious. And what changes it? Would you say that this is like a cycle of
I think
conscious
it's,
and unconscious change, information
you know how
exchange?
I think about it? I think it's almost like a system update where
Yeah.
that sharing of that subconscious, I'll just say information, right? In that kind of intuition, if you will, or understanding what that's of that collective unconscious. It's like, are you in sync? You're trying to sync the cloud. The cloud has its information, right? I just say that the collective unconscious is the cloud, and you as an individual computer, you have some information that are different, but you try to share that with the cloud. Is because am I in sync? Are the files updated? Is this how we supposed to operate, right?
And you sync both ways then, right? Because you upload the changes to the cloud and
Yeah,
download the
and the
changes
cloud
from the
changes
cloud.
too. The cloud has it changes the information as well, and be like, okay, this is the current meta. This is the current meta, okay? And everybody understands. Once you're in sync, you're like, okay, I understand what the meta is. Like that might not change as much because we have these archetype, right? The idea that
Or it just changes slower or something.
right, where it may be amorphous, but there's something fundamental about them that it doesn't really change throughout time because it's kind of fundamental to human, but there is that update. There is
forces.
because things do change, it's not, doesn't stay exactly the same, but it might change into a different manifestation, but these kind of archetypes still exist, and they still,
or maybe these archetypes kind of become more central and more powerful throughout time, and that also changes. Like I don't know, I feel these days the archetype of the Joker, in the face of the stand-up comedians, is pretty up there,
right?
Like they
Because
have a lot of momentum and power,
right,
in
so
the
the idea
culture.
being that they're propelled. You see this, imagine you being a stand-up comedian, like when you're first starting, right? You don't know nothing about it. You like what this is, but then you can feel that, oh, actually a lot of people enjoy this thing. You can feel that generally in the world this is a thing, because right now this is happening in China, this is happening in the West, in anywhere. Right? I've seen a lot of stand-up comedies online that are done in China, in Chinese, that they're actually playing with the concept. But this thing has become worldwide now. Before it was from the West, from the North America. This is kind of the form started from there, I think. But now that it's everywhere, right? Because somehow people realize this is an art form in which, this is what we need. We kind of
There's definitely a value in it.
We all need this sort of form to kind of express our feelings, so this would be something like the subconscious part, like the kind of collective.
Literally is the archetype of the gesture where they're sanctioned to, you can't say whatever you want,
right?
Because if you're not in that position, and you can't say that to powers that be for real,
right?
Because you're gonna be deleted.
You see, why is it happening right now? It's because the whole of society all over the world are feeding the pressure that we are being
transforming.
Yeah, because we're being oppressed. Okay, overall, it's like that Monty Python. Help! I'm being repressed. It's like because these systems are, you see right now, the rise of authoritarianism and these kind of like top-down sort of system are kind of suppressing the freedom of speech, the kind of we're not supposed to say certain things. See, in the West is happening with the whole political correctness, woke, right? You can't say what you're feeling because you might get fired because somebody say you're a bigot, you're a racist or whatever, right? In the East, in China, well, you just can't say anything about criticizing the government or whatever or the system, right? Or anything.
Not
And
allowed.
you can't even criticize society. Like no, you can't say nothing about it. So people feel this pressure of like, yeah, I want to say something, but I can't, right? So this is why it will be the rise of comedians. And you as a comedian, you will experience this rise. You can feel like, oh yeah, this industry is growing. This industry there's opportunity there. And these people are naturally, if you have some kind of a talent with the words and how you can be funny, then these people come up with it. We see the rise of this in the past few years, right? With Netflix doing these specials, it didn't exist before. Why? Because back then people didn't need this, or at least I think that they didn't need it as much because they can say what they want, they can express themselves. But now they can't. So the
Now it's been
Joker,
outsourced.
yeah. So the Joker archetype now appears more because
Ascendancy, yeah.
this is almost like the collective unconscious is updating to the current meta, right? The current meta is that we're being oppressed, we're being repressed, and we need some kind of way to kind of express
But
ourselves.
I mean, also that doesn't seem to add up because we've always been oppressed and repressed. That's never been not the case. So maybe it's just because it is actually a time of change that this is happening, because that's kind of what I'm thinking that it's happening, because with all these also whistleblowers and all these files appearing and stuff, it kind of seems to be the recurring theme here is that is an age of revelation, an age of the truth coming out, the shadow being illuminated. There's something to it because
Or in other word, Alex Jones was right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, folks, but it's been right too many times to be ignoring things. Yeah, it's that. So very interesting to see. But yeah, curious to explore this connection with the concept of collective unconscious further. But first, let's see how it is the idea of the trauma and mental problems are being unfolded in that video. I'm curious if they are gonna talk more about that. Wow, really
Damn.
interesting dive on Thomas Kinkade, painter. I never heard of him, but it's yeah. At first, I was baffled by why he was hated because I'm like, what? There's a painter who paints some, quaint-looking landscapes, whatever. Not a reason to hate him. Even if you are an art critic and professional, etc., and you can evaluate on the technical form, yeah, none of this makes it valid. It's just your opinion, bro. Especially when it's a successful artist, like by default successful because selling paintings, there is demand, etc. I think whatever your skill level are, whenever you reach this success level, there's always going to be critics who will try to take you down, etc. But the fact here that it was essentially cool to hate on him for the reasons that he was just not adhering to certain existing stereotypes about artists or something, I think that was a really interesting point, because that's where you meet that, the Bo Burnham was facing the same thing. It's your expectation of the audience and the world and the system of you. And if you really don't because by default you don't really care about it, you want to paint these houses for whatever reason. You don't have any reasons. It's art. You create it for whatever reason you want. Now, if you're motivated to figure out how to make it commercially viable and successful, yes, it's slightly a different type of process, but there's absolutely nothing wrong about it. Whatever motivates it, whether you're religious, Christian, who cares? None of this makes it invalid or bad. You're a painter that makes paintings. There is no problem. So the fact that he was, hated, and it's literally only because it seemed to be they made it cool to hate him. They made a guy to pick on, and that's what they did.
Well, it's the hip thing to do that, right? Because somehow people have this idea that, art should be hip. It should be like almost like,
Or it should be something specific. Yeah, like
or
he
like,
made his own style.
yeah, I know, but the thing is, people have this kind of stereotype and just generalization of like they think of art as kind of counterculture, right? Like it's supposed to be rebellious, it's supposed to be something edgy, right? That's what the general kind of stereotype that people have. This is the reason why they're hating him because it's like, yeah, it's not cool. It's just kind of too idealized, blah blah blah. Like people are being too cynical, right? So right, there's no reason for anybody to really criticize this if everybody actually want to buy this, then okay, right? But sure, you can say that, oh, some people, perhaps it does make sense from art perspective. Okay, he's just painting all these sort of, there's nothing challenging about the way he does it, the art, but then he just serves a type
But
of,
see, this is where it's like there's an expectation that it's supposed to be something
right.
specific. Oh, it's supposed to be challenging, it's supposed to be original. According to whom? Who is going to be the judge of all of this?
So that's a stereotype people have, right? But they have an idea about art and they're trying to fit that into the way how they,
Or like there's a specific genre or something, whatever, and then people are expecting you to be boxed in, like, well, which genre are you
right,
doing? Are you doing this one? No, it's as bad. And the guy just wanted to paint whatever he wanted to paint.
right.
And this was the biggest thing that exposes it. No, I don't think the world can do that to you, art. Why are you dictating me what I should be doing? This is how I wanted to do it. This is my art.
Right, but the problem is the world does that, right? It's
But yeah,
just
yeah, but
like
if you don't like it, go away. Go pick
that
an
in the
artist that you
perfect
like.
world, yes. In the perfect world, I think that's what the artist should be willing to push back. But a lot of
Kind of
times,
seemed like what he did.
right, but then he did find out that nobody buys the painting that he actually wanted to do. So he's frustrated about that, right? It's like,
Right,
oh,
right. That was how he pivoted to make it more commercially successful. That he picked up on something in the culture and all of the modern day
yeah.
to make it more desirable. But
So he's
even that is not a problem.
yeah, like he's falling into the trap where yes, he made money doing what he did, but then he found himself later on be like, I hate this. Don't want to like, yeah, okay, money is not a problem now, but I want to showcase my
Well, this
own
is
thing.
exactly what I'm talking about. Is that at the core of it, you don't care about the money. You want to
Yeah,
do something in a specific way because you want to do it in that way, and that's
right.
it. Nobody gets to tell you what it
Yeah.
is. You want to do a certain thing in a specific way because you want to do it that way.
But you see the problem with, I guess, from this story, I suppose if we were to say that if he could have done it differently, maybe he could have just like, screw all this. I'm just gonna turn away from this and now just do because he got money. He got enough money to just do whatever you like, right? So you
Yeah.
could just start like, you know what? From now on,
But there is some kind of this desire to be loved, I think, is something
yeah,
in that. The fact that you do want to have some kind of both recognition and appreciation. So in the artist search, if you concentrate on that, that's kind of what it looks like. I think it gets tragic because of that, because you're looking to be loved for who you are, but if you just don't find that response in your
yeah,
audience, you're trying to change yourself then. You're trying to find something, what can I make be that is lovable to others? And I think that's a mistake
yeah.
because
You
that's not,
shouldn't
you can't,
you
it doesn't
shouldn't
lead to
try because
success.
you can't even chase. That's just not a target by which you can successfully.
Yeah. Because if that's not who you are, I don't think you can become really a different person. If that person was like the most popular type of person, most lovable type of person, it's not like you can become that person. You are who you are.
Yeah. So, but I think a lot of these artists, especially as they are successful, they find it very hard to pivot because there is the consideration of their reputation, of what they're known for. And imagine if what you actually like is a complete opposite of what you've been doing, then that will be, I can see how they will be very troubled by that, right? Like, how do they have enough wherewithal to carry out that, like to go through with it, to just be completely. I feel like from our previous conversation, I think Joji did the right thing and he did that hard pivot because between him and his music career and what
Of
Pink Guy
course,
is,
you always choose yourself.
yeah, I think he did the right thing. and he completely changed how he wanted to do things, and I think he made the right call. But obviously, he lost a lot of fans because they just pigeonhole him into pink guy. But yeah, he's like, well, screw you all. I don't care. I just want to do like
I
anybody who
think
likes me
that's
for who I am,
yeah,
then you
that's
all
the
like
important
me.
part. You need to stay true to yourself, which means you have to listen to yourself, you have to trust yourself. So if you have these inklings, these intuitions, etc., it's just on the example of this Thomas Kinkade guy. It seems like there was more going on, with his personality. The fact that he was religious, there was some kind of relationship there that was also influencing his art, etc. So it's never simple with people.
Yeah.
There's
So
always multiple things that are
yeah.
interacting and
So
shaping things.
this is why to me, I feel like you have to be happy with yourself. Like you have to be okay with yourself, and there's nobody else can tell you any other way, because you should not be trying to buy other people's affection or trying to like make yourself popular or trying to just for the sake of other people like to receive that praise or whatever for the sake of that. You should not chase that because that's illusory, right? Like it's not it's just a feeding you're chasing. It's almost like it's like a vice. You're trying to seek praise just because you want to be praised. Maybe that's part of your child psychology. Maybe your parents never praised you for where you were young and you just desire to be praised. I want that feeding, right? Maybe a lot of people do that, but that's the wrong thing to do because you should be like, I'm just me. I'm doing the thing I want to do. I don't care if you know, because fundamentally it has to make sense to you. It has to, I'm not saying that you don't care, like he pointed out in the video. It's not that you shouldn't consider the audience feelings. Of course you should, but it's kind of that middle way of the balance. You don't want to just overly do it for the fans, but you also don't want to just kind of give up your own feelings about who you are and what you are as an artist and just completely either go each direction to the extreme, right? That doesn't work either way. Like the fans gonna hate you for not being who you are as well. Like sometimes the fan, even though they want to change you, but they don't want you to change. That's the thing. Like they might have this impulse to be, oh, well, I want it this way. But then if you
Yeah,
change yourself, then he's like, well, no, this is not what I want. You know?
because essentially, I think at the core of it, you do have your own signature style. It's whether you kind of discover, develop, and flesh it out with time. That's the level of mastery. But you can only produce anything of value if you are staying true to that thing. Because I mean, I am noticing it in myself since I am producing art in multiple different media. I notice that I have a certain signature thing that I like to be present in all of my art, in both music and visual stuff. I am looking to combine certain type of elements and forces, and that's how I gauge whether it's good or I like it. But that's just specific to me. Like if I were to make an art, using someone else's criteria or some specific shape and form where I don't use it, I'm not sure I'd be able to produce anything that I personally like. It will just look, so to me. But that style, that thing of whatever it is that makes me like that specific thing, that specific aspects of it, that's what it is, because that is the faculty that you are using to create the thing. For some reason, it is like that. For some reason, those are the aspects and the criteria that I think are important. It's almost like, again, it's been like, how does your taste shape? Do you choose your taste? Not
I
really,
don't think
again,
you
right?
choose. No.
Again, so it
You like
shapes in
what
a
you
certain
like.
way. Yeah, exactly. So if it is like that, then you can't even betray it, because anytime you do, you'll be completely aware of it, and then it just won't come together. So that's kind of, I think, what was highlighted somewhat in this clash. Maybe that's why he just even started getting the hate in the first place, because there was some kind of incongruence that he was introducing into his art, and people were picking up on that, and they were doing all the external criticism was about his form and motivations and stuff. But maybe it was that. It's because he was not just staying true to himself as an artist, and he was trying to just instead make it commercially successful and stuff, which is not what art is about, really. art is not supposed to make you money. Art is supposed to inspire and, make people experience stuff. When you're trying to prioritize how do I make this art be bought by as many people as possible, I don't
It's
think that's the angle that makes it successful
basically because
as art.
it's relying on much more on the aesthetic as opposed to the meaning aspect of, like,
Yeah.
it has meaning, sure, of course. It's a beautiful painting, it's nicely done, like that has its own value. But the thing is, I guess,
But nothing fuels it. Nothing important to you fuels it besides money, and money is
right.
empty.
That is only because it's a commodified thing, because he's
Yeah.
painting and selling these ones for people to hang it on the wall to make it look pretty. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was no underlying message behind
Right.
more than just that, right? So that's
Yeah.
why it's commercialized, and that's why people hate it. It's like, wow, you're not a real artist because you're just painting
Okay.
the.
I do get it now.
That's
I
why
think I
people
understand
would
it now.
criticize it, even though that's not exactly correct. Because if you judge the painting by their own merits, they're good paintings, right?
Yeah.
So, but the problem is people attach all these kind of labels and things to the process of that creation. And obviously, he's smart enough to capitalize on the financial aspect. So he's successful in a way, right? He's able to make money doing that. But obviously, he's not, because the fact that he started off maybe not exactly truthful to himself, that maybe he sees the money and be like, okay, I'll just go along with this, even though he's successful at the end. But then he's like, oh, shoot, now I can't change it now. People see me in this way. And if I do the thing that I want to do, they're like, no. They pigeonholed him, right, into that kind of specific role. Just as we discussed from last episode about these actors, especially the actor who played Joffrey. Like, he quit acting because he got so much hate. And imagine him continuing being an actor, everybody will still recognize him as Joffrey. That's like, it's just so hard for him to kind of get out of that.
You get tired of it,
You
probably.
get
Yeah,
tired
but
of it. It's
I
like,
mean,
fuck, I want to play different roles, but everybody just sees you as that role, and it's
yeah,
just
but
annoying.
if you just practice a little bit of meditation, maybe he'll be
Maybe,
able to
yeah.
distance
But
himself
see,
from it.
but some actors do succeed.
Yeah,
Like, they
you can
break the
overcome
role,
it.
right? They break the
Yeah.
role. For example, I think the key one, it would be
Matthew McConaughey, I remember
yes.
was.
For True Detective, he broke out. Like, before, everybody
Yeah.
know him as a rom-com kind of guy.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah,
handsome guy playing these romantic movies, and he's like, I'm sure he hated it. He's like, fuck
He
this.
got
Like,
tired of it
I
eventually,
don't
right?
want to be known that I have more to offer. So
Yes.
he got the opportunity to play, in True Detective, and he just fucking went 100% ham on that shit. And then
Yeah.
they show his range, and they'd be like,
Yeah.
whoa, he's actually more than just a pretty handsome guy, And
Yeah.
then he got more roles, and he went extreme too, because all the film after that were around that time. He played some extreme roles. He played one that was like a cancer, HIV patient, that he actually lose all that weight to make himself look like he's really dying, So that's the commitment to his art. So he's telling other people, be like, I am more than just what you think I am, right? So yes, you can definitely break out if you just have like a conviction of like, you know what, I have more to offer than that. It's possible, but some people, I don't know, they are too pressured and they quit prematurely, perhaps, or I mean, there are different reasons why, right? But this is what an artist has to gauge. How much are you willing to negotiate and change for the sake of, I guess, the market and the sellability of what you create. But on the other hand, is like, I suppose that the idea is that you must have artistic integrity, right? You're like, I know enough about what I'm doing that I'm not gonna just change for anybody, right? I think that's the key thing. Like, you have to know, and this goes with not just art, but goes with you as a person as well. Like, you don't want to do things that you don't want to do. You don't want to change for somebody else that's not even true to yourself, because at the end of the day, nobody will be happy because other people will not be happy that they changed you, you know? It's like the
Well, they
whole
might be happy if they're tripping on power and that's what they're kicking.
right. But you
I
see that
guess.
but you see, this is the thing that happens, I think we hear it a lot about, is how sometimes women does this to men, right? They want to change them, but the moment they do change, they're like, oh, I don't like you anymore
Yeah.
because I like that kind of raw whatever that was there. But
It's like people like maybe like the idea of it until they try it,
Until they
without
found out, yeah,
and without a conscious also analysis of it, you never even get aware of it. That's why it's so strange and insidious that because it seems like a good idea. It's like, oh, okay, there's a project, I can change it. I can use my creative and wise genius to like fix this man. But that's not how reality works. And that's
yeah,
not even what you even want
want,
ideally. This
yeah,
is so strange that that's where this whole idea of subconscious processes happening is so wild to me. I still like don't get it and don't understand it, because if that's true, if there are these subconscious factors that are driving your behavior of which you're not even aware of, then this is some kind of literally a movie that you're playing in that someone else scripts. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Which is why, again, this goes back to self-awareness, right? Like
Yeah.
that, to understand yourself is like, okay, I see this emotion coming up. Like you're trying to
Mm.
understand it, and
And then
that's
you
the
trace it
goal.
to like what is it what
You,
is it
yeah,
starting, what does it want?
exactly. This is why you eventually, if you trace that long enough, you find, oh, I see. That might be the way why I think that way, and that you will just be better for it, right? You're basically doing therapy to yourself, and you don't need anybody else to kind of tell you what's what. And that's the point anyway, is for you to understand what's going on. Even if you hire a therapist, they're trying to make it work so that you understand yourself. But if you can do it for yourself, then that's the end goal anyway, right? And this goes for anybody and not just artists or what. This is just like we're saying about creativity. Everybody can be more creative, and everybody needs more self-reflection, because it's like doesn't matter what you do. If you could be an artist, could be a business person, whatever, you need to aware, okay, what kind of pressure am I under? What's the nature of the thing that they're trying to change me for? And is that valid, or is that just somebody's fantasy, right? Because if I to make the decision to change myself for something else, is that a worthy trade-off? Not just the financial aspect, not just the emotional, but also does it make sense to your own inner being? Like, am I really about that? If I do that change, am I gonna regret it? Am I just gonna? That's the fundamental math you got to do in your head. You can't just be like, you know what happened with other people is like they chase these surface level goals and they change because they think that they need to change because the society says they need to, and they do it, and
Mm.
then they end up regretting it. It's like, well, why did I do all that
Yeah,
for?
they don't even like any of it.
Nobody cares about you, right? It's like
Yeah.
they don't care that you change. They want you to change just because I don't know, it's a power tripping
Everybody,
or
yeah, they have their own interests and their own
yeah,
things. That's where like picking up something as your goal where it's not even your goal. That's like the most insidious stuff I can think of. But it happens to all of us. Is because I think it's just general inexperience, and you don't know yourself well enough. You think like, oh, that looks cool. I think I like that. But when you try enough things, I think it starts to become a bit more clear about what you like and don't like about just anything. So, but it's very true. Like a lot of people, I mean, I think everybody encounters that where you pick a goal and you follow through with it, and then you're like, what was that about? What was that even for, right? Yeah, some of it is that you're not familiar with reality enough where you think that's what it is and that's why you want it, etc. But I mean, this is why to me spirituality became such a central point, because it exposes a lot of it. Like the core wisdom of is that there really isn't anything that you can get.
yeah. Even dude, even the wisdom in itself, if
Yeah.
followed by the letter, will lead to your downfall as well. Because the wisdom is not a dead thing. It's supposed to be
Yes. Yeah.
creatively received. You need to be think. It's like a metaphor. It's not supposed to be literal, right? So a lot of the times, it's like yeah, like you do need to listen to wisdom. You do need to listen to people who have more experience, but you cannot follow that just by the letter because
Yeah, they're kind of like examples and metaphors to consider as a, for potential heuristic, but they can't there it's like every single illustration, as we said before, is unique and desires a unique type of approach. It needs to be lived through as an actual, real, unique thing. And everything else that you know of, you can only like think about it, in the vicinity of it to maybe get inspired or something, but you can't use it as a formula to
Yeah,
deal with
because that's
anything.
what, again, that's the creativity part. Like you have to be creative with it. It's like it's almost like what we're saying about these artists making, like say, the music. It's like, okay, I see the project, I see that we're constrained, but I'm trying to be creative with it. So it's like I'm trying to draw all the wisdom in my repertoire, and I wanted to express it in a new way, in a different way, to live it the way that I wanted to make, right? So it's like that. It's almost like getting that wisdom to express itself in a different manner and not just by the way in which it is received. Like all information has to be processed by you. No matter where you hear it from, or what kind of thing that makes sense, you got to be okay, does that make sense? You can't just accept. This is the problem that people just accept things at face value. And this is how you get brainwashed because you don't think. You're like, oh, accept. And then you just going along with somebody else's direction, right? This is what happens in society. This is why a lot of times people get so worked up over, especially when it comes to politics, is because they are ingrained by the propaganda, by the broadcast that they hear, and they don't listen, they don't think about it, and they just accept at face value. And this is what end up happening. You have, um, yeah, like you
Yeah,
would
that's
just
what you have to be really careful about, is that a lot of these thoughts and ideas you just inherited from somewhere else. It comes from somewhere else, and then you're like, oh, it's mine. It's not yours.
no,
It's not yours. It's never yours. So don't take it too seriously ever. It's
yeah,
all of information. Like I don't trust anything anymore. I don't trust
no,
myself. I don't trust you. Nobody.
trust nobody.
Nobody. You can trust nothing. It's all tricky and shifty. There's also always some kind of game that you're not even aware of going on, and that's the game. That's the ultimate meta skill, to not be caught up in any of it,
Yeah. And sometimes you
which
almost have to
takes a
be
lifetime to master.
almost you have to be blindly optimistic and confident about what you're
Yeah,
doing. It's
I do
almost
believe
it
that.
is sort of like fake it till you make it, you know? It's like if you don't believe in yourself, then well nobody gonna believe in
Yeah.
you, right?
And there also, yeah, is an aspect of that self-fulfilling prophecy for sure. There's something to it, to that psychological process where your beliefs definitely influence your behavior, your expectations, your mood, your intentions. So you do want to be conscious on that front. You do want to choose your beliefs carefully. It's fine that you are aware of your beliefs and you consider them as just these beliefs, but it's true. It's just the way it works, because you
See,
have to believe something.
you see
You
the
do believe something whether you
yeah,
chose that belief or not. That's
yeah.
just what happens.
And you see how meta sometimes our conversation get to? And
Yeah.
how I think about it is like this exact podcast is exactly that. We decided we believe in this enough to broadcast ourselves because if we didn't believe in it in any sense,
Yeah,
I'll be
it
like,
would never start.
screw this, I'm not doing this, I'm not putting my face,
This is
I'm
some
not
dumb
putting
shit.
yeah, this is some dumb shit, I'm not putting my ugly mug to for the world to see and talk of some whatever, right? But
Yeah.
because I do believe that we have something here, we do feel
Yeah.
like there's some
Because
interesting
you can
discussion
choose,
that we
you
can
can select these beliefs for anything. You could find all and take all those arguments serious, like, yeah, I'm too whatever for this, and that's it, and that's gonna be the end of that. And nobody but you was there to make it so.
right. Which is why if you're an artist, if you want to do anything creative, any art, the fact that you're making it means that you believe in it enough, right? To carry out your vision. Because otherwise, why would you even do it? You shouldn't be doing anything, right? There's nothing to do if you feel like, oh, nobody's gonna. How would you know nobody's gonna like it? How are you
Yeah,
gonna know?
that's just an assumption.
You don't have. Yeah, this is all assumption, which is the reason why just see what sticks. You do something, see what the reaction is, and then okay, you change it,
Yeah,
and then you.
have the most optimistic assumptions. Those are the best ones to help.
These are what our worlds are created on, right? If any of these guys who made the AIs thought that, oh, this is stupid, this is not gonna work, and they're never gonna do the work to make it into reality. Same as any of these companies like Apple or whatever, if Steve Jobs did not believe in the vision that he had,
Yeah.
then he will not create it. Now, of course, we can talk about his personal problems or
The
whatever, but
thing is, there is no saint. There are no saints
yeah,
among humans. Whatever you choose to do, you're gonna have critics. You're gonna have people who will shit all over your stuff and dismantle it, and maybe they will be even right in some ways. But that's just how all great things happened too, you know? That's what it comes with, because for any shape to be, for any form to appear, all the rest of it, of the space, has to be negative space. It has to be to negate that form. So of course that form will be juxtaposed against everything that is not. That's just the nature of things. So I wouldn't take any criticism seriously. Like even right now, even like this podcast, I have no idea what it is, if it's good, bad, if anybody gonna like it. But what? I'm not gonna stop it, or
Yeah.
if there's gonna be 1,000 people and 100% downvotes that come in and say this is shit, it's not gonna change much. This is who I am. This is what I want to do and talk about and pay my attention to, and these are my thoughts. There's nothing that makes them
Yeah.
invalid.
I mean, of course, we can definitely use our rational mind to take in some of these criticism that perhaps if it helps the
We can engage
process.
with it, yeah, and
Yeah.
see what it means
But
for us.
definitely
If
not
it's
gonna be accepting it at face value. Be like, oh, just
yeah,
because you say this is supposed to be like
yeah,
this.
it's
Well,
not gonna
that's your
define
opinion.
anything.
That's your opinion.
Yeah, everything is just your opinion. That's the big part. Like people forget that
Yeah.
not you don't know much. You don't know much. Everything that you can say mostly is opinion, unless you're a super scientist who knows every
Yeah.
position of every atom in the
You know,
world. You got nothing.
this remind me that Red Richardson bit about the Filipino boy playing the song and then the guy from the UK. I was like, this is shit. It was hilarious. The way he built the pic. Everybody go watch that. Red Richardson. He has this bit. Find it about this guy's Facebook
He
comment.
just goes on with his family to like have a nice dinner and a barbecue. This is real. This is actual reality
Yeah.
that he described that is happening.
Yeah.
And to make the audience think that these people exist, and for some reason they like surely consciously choose to behave like that, because which adult in their right mind would do something like that?
No,
What's going
well.
on with
Think
that
about
person?
it. He's like, hold on, the roles can
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah. It's important for me to just
Express
to
myself.
really put down this kid because this is what I think, and it's important.
This is
about
important. The truth is
Yeah.
important. He has to know.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best pieces of wisdom that I've heard is, I think it comes from Buddhism, really, because they have one of the precepts is not to engage in empty talk, which is most of talk in human life. So that includes like gossip and stuff like that. So if you don't have anything nice or kind to say, why say anything at all? It's that. Because in that case, in that guy case leaving the comment, well, surely part of the intent is to hurt the guy.
Right.
But what would be the reason for that?
But then,
why does that need to happen?
but then there's 10,000 likes.
The duality of man.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens. That's the whole. What's that? There's that German word for it. I think, right? It's like Schadenfreude. Yeah.
Yeah.
The joy of seeing somebody fail.
At somebody's.
Yeah. It's sometimes, it is duality of man. It's just.
That's true. Yeah, there's even that. But then, I mean, you do get to choose which instincts to feed, because I mean, I don't think I do that. I mean, I do that sometimes with like ideas on, Reddit and forums and stuff, whereas like somebody's thinking is like really bothers me how it's not.
This is stupid.
Like, I don't get it. That's the close example to me. But I've learned to like curb it down, because it's completely unproductive, and it really shows that it's really more about me than about the person. Because if I wanted to comprehend someone else's idea and meaningfully engage with them, I can totally do that without ever
Constructive criticism.
making it.
Yeah.
Just keep it constructive at all times, because everything else is a meaningless, detrimental interaction. That's what I realized for myself. Like it hurts you, and it hurts other people, and it hurts society, and it hurts culture.
So
don't do it.
That's what people.
Nice.
That's what people say, right? Criticize the idea, not the person.
Yeah.
It's like the idea can be stupid. It doesn't mean the person is stupid. He might just not correlate all the information, and then he made a mistake.
If you want to engage, you can make it constructive and meaningful. If you really want to engage and comment on it, okay, you can make a suggestion. He's like, oh, you can try this to improve it. You can completely keep it positive. Why be an asshole and do something else? This is the question that everybody should ask themselves.
Then sometimes it's funny. this is shit.
No, it's funny because it's meta, because it became the point of observations, like on its, because it's once juxtaposed, right? This is like the nature of humor, because that thing happened somewhere in the middle of the internet nobody knew about. But when you look at it and from that perspective consider that everything that was going on, yeah, it becomes funny. Because why is it funny?
What's the
It's funny because it's true. It definitely happened, and it's just incongruent. And it's incongruent. That's why. Like, he painted the fiction as a family guy. It's this great guy, but then that's what he is like for real. Because when there's nothing, when nobody prompted it to him, he's like, "This is."
It's so important that he has to do it, right?
Yeah,
You could just
but
ignore it.
that's.
You could just be
I
like,
mean,
whatever. This
yeah,
is
you can do so many things. That's why they say like the way to judge a man's character is by seeing what he does to people or creatures that essentially can't do nothing back to him. So for example, how you treat animals. If you abuse animals, you're a piece of shit.
you're just abusive in general.
There's
You're
no
gonna
ifs
be
or buts about
you're
it.
gonna be abusing people as well.
Yeah,
That's what you
yeah.
do,
There's
right?
something in you that is just, it's not correct.
Yeah. Wow. Damn. This is like therapy every single day on this,
I'm
right?
telling you, it gets like therapeutic, existential. It gets completely deep fried, and we might need a couple more episodes to finish that
Dude,
video,
this
bro.
is
If
like
that's
what,
what it
halfway?
means.
Did we do halfway?
We did a bit more than halfway, yeah, so barely. So that's what it looks like. It's deep dives. We're going deep on this one. But also, yeah, it shows you how ripe the topic of art is for just deconstruction, understanding of the human nature, the how society works, how we
Yeah.
all view each other, our role in each other's lives.
So
It's crazy,
I
dude.
know, but this part is what I really wanted to. This is a reoccurring thing that I'm picking up here in this conversation is that, again, I have to say, be creative in your life. Even if you don't think you're an artist, even if you're not inclined artistically in any of the given medium form of art, you still want to be creative. You want to be like using your brain. You got a brain, you can use that, right? Think about things that you can, if there's anything that you want to achieve, think about what you can do to actually do that, you know? Don't sit on it. Don't feel like, oh, I'm just gonna, nobody gonna like this or whatever. You don't know that, you know? Just whatever crazy idea, I don't know, go out and do it, and try it out. If it doesn't work, it
Yeah,
doesn't work. There's no
listen to a
reason to,
creative voice.
yeah, because this is what we decided. And I mean, it took us a while to get started on this because before I was affected by that sort of, what do you call that? Uh,
Doubt and
doubts and
indecision, right?
inferiority complex or whatever. It's like, who's want to listen to me? I'm nobody. I'm this and that, whatever. But why wouldn't you? Right? You are a living being. You are expressing yourself every single day. You are alive, right? You're doing things. Why not? Share your thoughts, right? Maybe nobody
For
watching it.
sure.
Who cares, right? It's about this is what I don't know. Part of it, like, yeah, everybody wants to have an audience, but the thing is also you got to do it for yourself as well, right? It's that kind of, even though, yeah, I agree with the topic talking about the relationship between artists and their audience. Like, yeah, there's definitely a two-way street. But the thing is, I think it's still worthwhile, even if, because for a fact that it's not that there's nobody out there. It's not like where that hypothetical scenario where, if the genie gives you the power to be creative and nobody gonna watch it. It's not like
Yeah.
that. If you put in the effort, if you try the hardest that you can,
Yeah,
there's gonna
eventually
be somebody. There's gonna be
some gonna
somebody who like,
response. Yeah.
oh yeah, we already have some comments on the, they like what we're doing, right? There's some people who enjoyed
Yeah.
it. So yeah, it's fine. Even if you have one audience, okay, that's fine. I'll do it for that one,
Yeah.
So it's more like you do it for yourself and you do it for other people. That's basically what it is. So you gotta have it built into a framework, right? The comedians have their stand-ups. There's the setup, right? A painter has, you have your medium. A musician, you have your instruments. You have all these stuff. Just do the
Find your canvas and find your tools.
Yeah.
Well, that can be
If
anything.
it's a business you want to run, do that. Be creative with it. See what's out there, what's lacking out there, and find a niche. Do it. Try it. Because I've seen, dude, I have seen so many people in my line of work doing transport and moving services. Like, yeah, a lot of the people that I work with is just they seem to just stuck in where they are because they feel like they can't do more than like,
They're not building towards
yeah,
anything.
I understand nobody wants this job, but the market being what it is, but still, you gotta build. Like, I feel like these people are always so set on the like, well, I don't know anything, I want to try business, but I don't know what to do, or, I get it. I've been there, right? I've been where they are, but because I made the move, something
Yeah,
changed.
you don't know, like when you're starting anything, you don't know nothing. That's not the reason to not do it. It's because you're always gonna learn and figure out. You just have to keep
Yeah,
showing up
and
there.
I
That's
just
it.
get too many examples of these people are not just doubting themselves too much, right? They're not wanting to make the change. And that's the biggest hurdle, right? So you got to embrace what kind of make you tick because if you're not doing things that you enjoy or that it's not you, ultimately, if you're doing something, if you suppress yourself so much just because you try to fit a kind of mold, whether that's what other people tell you, what your parents tell you, or whatever, you're not going to be happy at the end of the day. You don't want to do that. It doesn't matter how much rejection you're going to receive or how much pushback. If it's not making you happy, don't do it, right? Whatever that means, you got to figure it out yourself because nobody's going to tell you that, right? You just have to find out, okay, what's my it's about knowing yourself enough, but also be like, well, I believe in myself enough to also give it a try, right? What's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen, you fail. The most successful people are just failing their way up to their where they are now.
Yeah, failure is how you learn. It's how you get real feedback from real world. So failure is good. And on that optimistic note, let's wrap it up before we turn it into another 3-hour lecture.
It's
Because
already a 3-hour lecture, okay?
yeah, so
So that's only halfway.
we'll catch up on more deep fried insights next time. Until then, stay crispy.
That's right.